The 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Let me tell you about one of the simplest yet most powerful productivity tools you'll ever encounter. It's called the 2-minute rule, and it works like this. If something takes less than 2 minutes to complete, you do it immediately right now without thinking twice about it. Imagine you're going through your day and you notice an email that needs a quick reply. Your brain wants to flag it, add it to a list, think about it later. But here's what happens when you do that. You've just created mental clutter. That email will sit in your mind, taking up tiny amounts of energy every time you remember it exists. You'll think about it multiple times throughout the day. Each time costs you focus and attention. Now picture the alternative. You see the email, you spend 90 seconds writing a response, and you send it. Done. Gone. Your mind is clear. That task no longer exists in your mental space. You've freed up cognitive bandwidth for things that actually matter. The magic of the 2-minute rule isn't really about the 2 minutes. It's about understanding the true cost of delay. When you postpone small tasks, you're not saving time. You're multiplying the time they consume. You'll think about that task multiple times. You'll add it to a list. You'll review that list. You'll prioritize it. You'll remember it again. You'll feel guilty about not doing it. And eventually you'll do it anyway. All of that mental activity takes far more than 2 minutes. Think about the small things in your life. Hanging up your coat when you come home. Putting dishes directly in the dishwasher instead of leaving them in the sink. Replying to a simple text message. Wiping down the bathroom counter. Paying a bill online. Scheduling that appointment. Each one takes less than 2 minutes, but collectively, when left undone, they create a background hum of stress and incompletion. The 2-minute rule creates momentum. When you start knocking out these tiny tasks immediately, you build a sense of accomplishment. Your brain releases small hits of dopamine with each completion. This feels good. It energizes you. Suddenly, you're not stuck in paralysis. You're moving. Action becomes easier. The barrier between thinking and doing dissolves. There's also something deeply satisfying about immediate completion. In a world where so many things take days, weeks, or months to finish, having tasks that start and end within 2 minutes feels almost luxurious. You get to experience that wonderful feeling of completion multiple times per day. Each one is a tiny victory. But let's be clear about what the 2-minute rule is not. It's not an excuse to constantly interrupt deep work for every little thing that pops up. If you're in the middle of focused, important work, you don't drop everything because you remembered something that takes 2 minutes. The rule applies when you're already in a transitional state, when you're checking messages, when you're between tasks, or when you're doing routine administrative work. The rule also helps you identify what doesn't deserve your attention at all. If something takes less than 2 minutes and you find yourself consistently avoiding it, that's information. Maybe it's not actually important. Maybe you should delete it, delegate it, or automate it. The 2-minute rule exposes the tasks that create friction in your life. Implementation is wonderfully simple. You don't need an app, a system, or a fancy notebook. You just need awareness. As you move through your day, pause for a moment when something comes up. Ask yourself, will this take less than 2 minutes? If yes, do it now. That's the entire system. Many people resist this rule because they worry it will derail their day. They imagine themselves bouncing from tiny task to tiny task, never getting to the important work. But in practice, the opposite happens. By clearing these small items immediately, you create space. Your environment becomes more organized. Your mind becomes less cluttered. And when it's time to focus on big, important work, you're not distracted by the nagging feeling that you should be doing 12 other little things. The 2-minute rule also trains you to be more decisive. So much of productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about reducing the lag time between decision and action. When you practice immediate action on small tasks, you strengthen your ability to act decisively in all areas of life. You become someone who does things rather than someone who thinks about doing things. Consider how this applies to physical spaces. A cluttered desk isn't usually the result of one big mess. It's the accumulation of dozens of small items that each took less than 2 minutes to put away properly. The coffee mug, the papers, the pen, the phone charger. Each one seems insignificant, but together they create chaos. The 2-minute rule applied to physical organization means your spaces stay naturally tidy because things go back where they belong immediately. This rule also respects your future self. When you handle something now, you're giving a gift to the you of tomorrow. You're not passing problems forward. You're not creating a backlog. You're staying current. There's tremendous peace in knowing that your small obligations are handled, that you're not accumulating a debt of tiny undone tasks. The psychological benefit extends beyond productivity. Living by the 2-minute rule creates a sense of control. In a world where so much feels overwhelming and complex, having a simple decision rule that consistently works feels stabilizing. You know what to do. The answer is clear. This reduces decision fatigue and anxiety. Over time, the 2-minute rule becomes automatic. You stop thinking about it consciously. You just act. And that's when it becomes truly powerful. It's no longer a technique you're trying. It's just how you operate. Small things get handled immediately, naturally, without effort or stress. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, consider this simple truth. The smallest actions, taken immediately, often have the largest impact on your peace of mind. The 2-minute rule isn't about cramming more into your day. It's about creating flow, reducing friction, and honoring the present moment by completing what can be completed now. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow you can move through your day with less mental clutter and more ease. Don't touch it twice. Finish tasks when you start them. There's a hidden cost in how most people work, and it's enormous. It's the cost of restarting. Every time you pick something up, look at it, think about it, and then put it down without finishing it, you're essentially doing that task twice, or 3 times, or more. This is what the "don't touch it twice" principle addresses. Imagine you receive a document that needs your review. You open it, glance at the first page, think, "I'll do this later when I have more time," and close it. Later that day, you open it again. You reread the first page because you've forgotten the details. You get through 2 pages, then get interrupted. You close it again. The next day, you open it a 3rd time. You skim the first 2 pages again to remember the context. This time you finish it. But here's the reality. You've now spent far more time on that document than if you had simply completed it the first time you touched it. This is the stop and start tax. Every time you stop and restart, you pay. You pay in time spent regaining context. You pay in mental energy required to remember where you were. You pay in motivation, because unfinished tasks drain enthusiasm. You pay in stress because incomplete work accumulates in your mind like unpaid bills. The "don't touch it twice" rule is beautifully simple. When you start something, finish it before moving on. If you can't finish it right now, don't start it. Wait until you have the time and focus to complete it. This seems counterintuitive at first. Don't we need to make progress on multiple things? Don't we need flexibility? But the principle isn't about rigidity. It's about respecting the true cost of interruption. Think about physical mail. You pick up an envelope. You open it. It's a bill. You think, "I'll pay this later," and you set it in a pile. That bill now occupies mental space. You'll see that pile repeatedly. Each time you'll feel a small stress response. You'll need to remember to pay it. You'll need to decide when to pay it. And eventually, you'll pick up that bill again, reread it, find your payment information, and complete the task. Compare this to the alternative. You open the envelope, immediately go online or write a check and pay the bill. 5 minutes, done, gone forever. The principle applies everywhere. Email is a perfect example. How many times do you open the same email? You read it, think about responding, close it, and mark it unread. Later, you open it again, reread it to remember what it said, start composing a reply, get distracted, and save it as a draft. Later still, you open the draft, reread the original email and your partial response, and finally finish and send it. 3 touches, 3 context-switching costs, 3 opportunities for the task to weigh on your mind. What if instead, when you opened that email, you asked yourself, can I handle this completely right now? If yes, you do it. If no, you don't open it yet. You wait until you have the time to give it full attention and complete it. This approach seems radical because we're trained to constantly check things, to stay on top of everything, to be responsive. But responsiveness without completion isn't productivity. It's busyness disguised as work. The power of single-handling tasks goes beyond time savings. It creates completion momentum. Finished things feel fundamentally different from started things. When you finish something, you get psychological closure. Your brain releases satisfaction chemicals. You can fully let go of that task. It no longer occupies any of your mental RAM. This is energizing. It creates space for creativity and focus on what truly matters. Incomplete tasks, by contrast, are cognitive parasites. They consume attention even when you're not actively working on them. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for incomplete tasks to intrude on your thoughts more than completed ones. Every unfinished thing creates a tiny loop running in the background of your mind, draining energy, creating stress, and reducing your capacity for present moment focus. Implementing "don't touch it twice" requires discipline at first. You'll need to fight the urge to peek, to quickly check, to just take a fast look. These impulses feel productive, but they're not. They're procrastination wearing a mask of diligence. True productivity means having the patience to wait until you can give something full attention, then giving it that attention completely. This principle also forces better time management. If you know you can't start something unless you can finish it, you become more thoughtful about what you start. You look at your calendar. You assess your energy. You ask, do I actually have 20 uninterrupted minutes right now? If not, you don't begin. This prevents the scattered, fragmented work style that characterizes modern busyness. There are obvious exceptions. Complex projects spanning days or weeks can't be completed in one session. But even here, the principle applies to subtasks. You might not finish writing an entire report in one sitting, but you can finish researching one section. You can complete one draft of one part. The key is defining doneness at an appropriate level and then achieving it. For small tasks, the application is straightforward. That form you need to fill out. Do it completely or don't start. That phone call you need to make. Have the conversation fully or wait until you can. That item you need to purchase online. Complete the transaction or leave it for later. No half actions, no partial completions. All or nothing. This creates a different rhythm to your day. Instead of constantly touching 20 things, you completely finish 5. At the end of the day, you have 5 genuinely completed items. Things that are done, gone, off your list forever. This feels far better than having progress on 20 things but completion on none. The mental clarity this creates is profound. When you practice single-handling, your mind becomes less cluttered. You're not juggling dozens of partially completed tasks. You're not trying to remember the status of everything. Things are either not started or completely done. This binary state is cognitively much easier to manage than the messy middle ground of partial completion. Consider how this applies to household tasks. You notice dishes in the sink. You wash one plate, then stop. Later, you wash another. You're constantly encountering a partially done task, which triggers mild stress each time. Compare this to, you see dirty dishes, you take 5 minutes, you wash all of them, you dry them, you put them away. Done. The kitchen is clean. You won't think about dishes again until the next meal. The difference in mental peace is substantial. The same logic applies to digital hygiene. Your computer desktop is cluttered with files. You could spend 2 minutes each day moving a few files to folders, constantly maintaining, but never completing. Or you could block 20 minutes, process every file completely, and return to a clean desktop. The second approach, though requiring a larger single investment, creates actual completion and lasting relief. Don't touch it twice is ultimately about respect. Respect for your time, because restarting wastes it. Respect for your attention, because context switching depletes it. Respect for your peace of mind, because incomplete tasks disturb it. And respect for your future self, because finishing now prevents problems later. As you settle in for sleep tonight, notice any tasks you've touched multiple times without finishing. Notice how they hover in your awareness, incomplete, demanding attention. Tomorrow, you can choose differently. You can touch things once, completely, and experience the profound relief of true completion. Rest now, knowing that finishing what you start is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. Rule of 72, wait. 72 hours before deciding. Here's a truth about human decision-making that most people learn the hard way. Your worst decisions happen when you're in a depleted state. When you're hungry, angry, tired, or lonely, your judgment becomes compromised. Your perspective narrows. Your emotional state overwhelms your rational thought. You make choices you'll later regret. The Rule of 72 offers a simple solution. When you're in one of these states, wait 72 hours before making any important decision. 72 hours. 3 days. This specific time frame isn't arbitrary. It's long enough for most emotional storms to pass. It's long enough for your body to recover from physical depletion. It's long enough to gain perspective. But it's not so long that genuine opportunities disappear or real problems go unaddressed. 72 hours is the sweet spot between impulsive reaction and analysis paralysis. Let's understand why this matters. Your brain in a depleted state is literally different from your brain in a resourced state. When you're hungry, your blood sugar drops, affecting the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision-making, impulse control, and long-term thinking. Studies show that judges give harsher sentences before lunch than after. Hunger makes you meaner, more risk-averse, and less patient. It's not a character flaw. It's biology. Anger creates a similar distortion. When you're angry, your amygdala activates, flooding your system with stress hormones. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your thinking becomes binary and aggressive. You're in fight mode. This state evolved for physical threats, not for complex modern decisions. When you're angry, you see enemies, not partners. You see battles to win, not problems to solve. You become terrible at nuanced judgment. Tiredness might be the most underestimated decision disruptor. Sleep deprivation affects your brain similarly to intoxication. After staying awake for 17 hours, your mental capacity drops to the level of someone with a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. Tired people take foolish risks, miss obvious solutions, and can't properly evaluate consequences. Yet we routinely make important decisions while exhausted, somehow believing willpower can override biology. Loneliness creates its own distortions. When you feel disconnected and isolated, you become more vulnerable to poor decisions. You might agree to relationships or opportunities that aren't actually good for you, simply because you crave connection. You might spend money on things that promise to fill the void. You might make choices based on fear of being alone rather than genuine desire. Loneliness clouds judgment as surely as any physical need. The acronym HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, comes from addiction recovery programs, where it's recognized that these states trigger relapse. But the wisdom extends far beyond addiction. These states trigger all kinds of bad decisions. The impulsive purchase, the angry email, the resignation letter written at midnight, the relationship ended in frustration, the business deal accepted out of desperation. The Rule of 72 creates a buffer between impulse and action. When you feel the urge to make a decision while in a halt state, you pause. You acknowledge your state. I'm exhausted right now, and that's affecting my thinking. You explicitly commit to revisiting the decision in 72 hours. Then you address your immediate need. You eat, you rest, you reach out to someone, you sleep. This pause is not avoidance. It's not procrastination. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that there are multiple versions of you, and the depleted version makes different choices than the resourced version. The decision you make at 2 in the morning after a terrible day might be completely opposite to the decision you'd make after a good night's sleep and breakfast. Both feel real in the moment, but only one reflects your actual values and goals. Think about major life decisions you've made. How many of the ones you regret happened when you were in a halt state? That job you quit in anger without another lined up? That message you sent at 3 in the morning? That purchase you made when lonely? That commitment you made when desperate for approval? These decisions have a pattern. They felt urgent in the moment but look obviously flawed in retrospect. Now think about good decisions. They typically happen when you're reasoned, rested, and calm. When you've had time to think. When you've consulted people you trust. When you've slept on it. Good decisions rarely feel urgent. They feel considered. They come from a place of clarity rather than reaction. The 72-hour pause gives you access to multiple perspectives. Day 1, you're still in the emotional state. The decision still feels obvious and urgent, but you've made a commitment to wait, so you sit with the discomfort. Day 2, you notice your state has shifted. The situation looks slightly different. New considerations emerge. Day 3, you often realize the original impulse has passed entirely. The decision that felt life or death now seems manageable, or even unnecessary. Sometimes after 72 hours, you reach the same decision you would have made initially. That's fine. The pause hasn't cost you anything real, but it's given you confidence. You know this decision isn't just emotional reaction. It's been tested against time and changing states. It's more likely to be sound. The rule also teaches you about yourself. When you start noticing patterns, I always want to quit things when I'm tired, or I spend money when I'm lonely, you gain valuable self-knowledge. You can start addressing root causes instead of just managing symptoms. You learn that your midnight existential crisis isn't actually about your entire life being wrong, it's about needing sleep. This awareness is liberating. Implementing this rule requires preparation. You can't invoke it in the moment if you haven't decided in advance to follow it. So you make a commitment. When I notice I'm in a halt state and feel compelled to make a significant decision, I will wait 72 hours. You might write this down. You might tell trusted friends who can remind you. You create a structure that supports your best self. You also need to define what counts as a significant decision. Obviously, you don't wait 72 hours to decide what to eat for lunch or which route to drive home. The rule applies to decisions with lasting consequences, ending relationships, changing jobs, major purchases, sending confrontational communications, commitments that are hard to reverse. Use your judgment, but err on the side of caution. What do you do during the 72 hours? First, address your immediate state. If you're hungry, eat. If you're tired, sleep. If you're lonely, reach out to someone. Don't try to think your way out of a physical or emotional deficit. Actually meet the need. Second, if the decision still feels important after you're no longer depleted, gather information. Talk to people. Write down pros and cons, but don't decide. Just explore. Third, notice how your perspective shifts over the 3 days. Watch your mind change. This is valuable data. The rule of 72 is an act of self-compassion. It acknowledges that you're human, with needs and limitations. It protects you from your own worst instincts. It recognizes that future you will thank present you for the pause. It's a gift you give yourself, the gift of time, perspective, and better judgment. Tonight, as you rest, reflect on any current decisions you're facing. Are you in a halt state? If so, can you give yourself permission to wait? Can you trust that 72 hours from now, you'll have access to clearer thinking? Sleep is one of the best decision-making tools you have. Use it. Wait. Decide from a place of resource, not depletion. That's the path to choices you won't regret. Daily highlight. Pick one main task each day. There's something beautifully simple about having just one main thing to accomplish each day. Not 10 things, not 5 things, one thing. This is the daily highlight principle. And it might be the most liberating productivity concept you'll ever encounter. Here's why it works. Modern life bombards you with infinite possibilities for how to spend your time. Emails demand responses. Projects need attention. People want meetings. Your phone buzzes with notifications. Social media beckons. Household tasks accumulate. The list of things you could do is endless. This abundance of options creates paralysis. You feel busy all day but finish feeling like you accomplished nothing meaningful. The daily highlight cuts through this chaos with elegant simplicity. Each day, you choose one thing that matters most. One task that, if completed, will make the day feel successful. Everything else is secondary. This doesn't mean you ignore other responsibilities. It means you've established a hierarchy. You've decided what winning looks like for this specific day. The beauty is in the specificity. Your highlight isn't vague like work on project or be productive. It's concrete. Finish the first draft of the presentation. Call 3 potential clients. Organize the garage. Write for 1 hour. You know exactly what you're committing to. You'll know without ambiguity whether you did it. This clarity transforms your day. When you wake up, you already know your main mission. You don't waste mental energy wondering what you should focus on. The decision is made. This saves enormous cognitive bandwidth. Instead of constantly prioritizing and reprioritizing throughout the day, you've done that work once, in advance, when your mind was clear. Your daily highlight becomes an anchor. When distractions arise, and they will, you can ask, will this help me complete my highlight? If no, you can postpone it without guilt. You're not being lazy or irresponsible. You're being strategic. You're protecting what matters most today. The principle also addresses a profound psychological need, the need for completion. Human brains crave finishing things. We get satisfaction from closure, from moving something from in progress to done. But when your to-do list contains 30 items, finishing all of them is impossible. You end each day with most items incomplete. This feels defeating, even if you worked hard all day. With a daily highlight, completion is achievable. One thing. You can finish one thing. And when you do, you get that satisfying sense of accomplishment. Your brain releases dopamine. You feel successful. This positive feeling matters more than you might think. It maintains motivation. It prevents burnout. It makes you want to keep going tomorrow. The daily highlight also forces honest prioritization. You can't cheat by picking 3 equally important tasks and calling them all your highlight. One task. This constraint makes you think, what really matters today? What will I regret not doing? What will have actual impact? These questions cut through the noise of urgent but unimportant tasks that often dominate our days. Sometimes your highlight is about making progress on something big. You're writing a book, so your highlight is write 1,000 words. You're studying for an exam, so your highlight is complete practice problems for chapter 5. You're building a business, so your highlight is finish the landing page design. These highlights move important long-term projects forward, one day at a time. Other times, your highlight is about addressing something timely. A deadline approaches, so your highlight is complete and submit the report. A family member needs help, so your highlight is help mom set up her new phone. A maintenance task is overdue, so your highlight is take car in for service. These highlights ensure urgent and important things get handled. Still other times, your highlight is purely about well-being or relationships. Have a meaningful conversation with my partner. Go for a 30-minute walk outside. Call my friend who's going through a hard time. Spend 1 hour on my hobby with no distractions. These highlights honor the truth that productivity isn't only about work. A meaningful life requires attention to health, relationships, and joy. The flexibility to choose different types of highlights keeps the system from becoming rigid or oppressive. Some days are about work achievements. Some days are about personal growth. Some days are about relationships. Some days are about rest. You're not locked into any particular category. You're simply committing to one thing each day that will make that day feel worthwhile. Choosing your highlight requires some wisdom. It should be significant enough to matter, but not so ambitious that completion is unlikely. If your highlight is solve world hunger, you'll fail and feel discouraged. If your highlight is check one email, you're not challenging yourself meaningfully. The sweet spot is a task that requires real effort but is achievable within your day. Timing matters too. Ideally, you choose your highlight the night before. Before bed, you take 2 minutes to reflect. What's the one thing I want to make sure I accomplish tomorrow? You write it down. Then you can sleep peacefully, knowing tomorrow has direction. Your subconscious can even work on the task overnight. Alternatively, you can choose your highlight first thing in the morning, perhaps during coffee or breakfast. The key is choosing it early, before the day's chaos begins. If you wait until midday to decide your highlight, you've already lost hours to reactive, unfocused activity. Once you've chosen your highlight, protect it fiercely. Schedule time for it. Ideally, schedule it during your most energetic, focused time of day. If you're sharpest in the morning, that's when you tackle your highlight. Don't waste your peak hours on email and meetings, then expect to accomplish your highlight at 5 in the evening when you're exhausted. Tell people about your highlight if appropriate. I'm focusing on finishing this presentation this morning, so I'll be heads down until noon. This sets boundaries. It manages expectations. It makes it more likely that people will respect your focus time. When interruptions happen, and they will, evaluate them against your highlight. This is important, but is it more important than my highlight? Often the answer is no. The interruption can wait. If the interruption truly is more important, that's fine. You're not being rigid. You're being thoughtful about trade-offs. At the end of each day, check in with yourself. Did you complete your highlight? If yes, celebrate. Feel good about it. Even if other things went wrong, you accomplished the main thing. If no, don't beat yourself up, but do reflect. What got in the way? Was the highlight too ambitious? Did you not protect time for it? Did you let distractions win? This reflection helps you choose better highlights and protect them more effectively going forward. Over time, the daily highlight practice creates a record of meaningful accomplishments. Looking back over weeks and months, you'll see concrete evidence of progress. 30 days of highlights means 30 significant things done. Some were work tasks, some were relationship moments, some were personal growth activities. Together, they represent a life lived intentionally, not just reactively. The practice also reveals patterns. You might notice you always choose work highlights and never personal ones. This is information. Maybe you need more balance. Or you might notice you set overly ambitious highlights that you rarely complete. This suggests you need to calibrate better. The daily highlight system gives you data about yourself. Perhaps most importantly, the daily highlight shifts your mindset from endless to-do list anxiety to focused intention. Instead of being overwhelmed by everything you could do, you're grounded in the one thing you will do. This shift from possibility to commitment is psychologically powerful. It reduces stress. It increases follow-through. It makes productivity feel achievable rather than overwhelming. Tonight, before you sleep, you can choose tomorrow's highlight. Just one thing. The one thing that will make tomorrow feel successful. Write it down. Let your mind relax, knowing that tomorrow has clear direction. You don't need to accomplish everything. You just need to accomplish one thing, and that's entirely possible. Sleep well and wake ready to make that one thing happen. Hell yes or hell no. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Life constantly presents you with opportunities, invitations, and requests. A friend asks if you want to join a committee. A colleague invites you to a networking event. Someone offers you a chance to learn something new. A family member requests your help with a project. Most of these opportunities are fine. Not terrible, not amazing. Just okay. And that's the problem. The hell. Yes or hell no. Principle says this. If your response to an opportunity isn't an enthusiastic, hell yes, I definitely want to do this, then your answer should be no. Not maybe, not I guess I could. No, this seems extreme at first. Aren't there plenty of worthwhile things that don't inspire passionate enthusiasm? Yes, there are. But your time and energy are finite. Every yes to something okay is a no to something potentially great. Think about your current commitments. How many of them do you genuinely love? How many light you up? How many would you choose again if you could start fresh? If you're like most people, you're carrying numerous obligations that you agreed to in moments of weakness, guilt, or misguided optimism. They're not awful enough to quit, but they drain you. They occupy space in your life without giving back proportional value. This happens because most people have a very low bar for saying yes. If something seems reasonable, if you have time, if the person asking is nice, if you can't think of a good reason to decline, you say yes. You default to acceptance. This is a recipe for a life filled with mediocrity and regret. The hell yes or hell no principle flips this default. Instead of needing a reason to say no, you need a reason to say yes, and that reason must be powerful. You must genuinely want to do the thing. Your gut reaction must be excitement, not obligation or mild interest. If you find yourself thinking, well, I suppose I could, or it might be good for me, or I probably should, those are all variations of no. This standard sounds harsh until you realize what it protects: your potential for excellence and joy. When you say yes only to things that genuinely excite you, you create space in your life for those things to flourish. You bring full energy and enthusiasm to them. You do them well. You enjoy them. You don't resent them. Your life becomes a collection of commitments you actually care about. Consider professional opportunities. Someone offers you a project that pays well but doesn't interest you. The old you might think, the money's good, I should probably do it. The hell yes or hell no you asks, am I excited about this? Does this move me toward what I care about? If the answer is lukewarm, you decline. This creates space for work you genuinely care about, even if that work doesn't appear immediately. Or social invitations. You're invited to an event. It sounds fine. You don't actively want to go, but you also don't have a concrete conflict. The old you thinks, I should be more social, I guess I'll go. The hell yes or hell no you recognizes that spending an evening at an event you're lukewarm about costs you an evening you could spend on something you actually value. Maybe quiet time, maybe a different social engagement, maybe a creative project. The principle applies to relationships too. Not romantic relationships necessarily, though it can, but friendships and social connections. Some people drain you. Time with them feels like an obligation. You don't look forward to it. But you maintain the relationship out of history or guilt. The hell yes or hell no principle asks, if you met this person today, would you actively choose to build a friendship with them? If not, why are you investing scarce time and energy in maintaining one? This isn't about being cold or dismissive. It's about honesty. It's better to gracefully step back from lukewarm relationships than to half-heartedly maintain them. The other person deserves friends who are excited to spend time with them, not people who show up out of obligation. And you deserve to invest your relational energy in connections that genuinely nourish you. The hell yes or hell no filter becomes especially valuable as opportunities increase. Success paradoxically creates this problem. The more capable and accomplished you become, the more people want your time, expertise, and involvement. If you say yes to everything reasonable, you'll quickly become overwhelmed with commitments that don't actually matter to you. Your success will trap you in mediocrity. Derek Sivers, who popularized this principle, describes deciding whether to attend a conference. He imagined the conference was next week. Would he drop everything to attend? If yes, he'd go, even though it was months away. If he wasn't excited enough to attend next week, he'd decline, even though it seemed far off. This test strips away the comfortable distance of someday. It forces honesty about actual desire. Applying this principle requires overcoming some deep social conditioning. We're taught to be agreeable, to help when asked, to not disappoint people. Saying no feels uncomfortable, even rude. But saying yes when you mean no is dishonest. It's unfair to the other person, who deserves your genuine enthusiasm or nobody at all. and it's unfair to yourself, you'll need strategies for saying no gracefully. Simple honesty works. Thank you for thinking of me, but this isn't the right fit for me right now. You don't owe elaborate explanations. You don't need to justify your no with conflicts or excuses. No is a complete sentence, though soften it with courtesy. Most people will respect a clear, kind no more than an ambivalent yes. Sometimes you'll feel guilty. You'll think, but they need help. Or, I should be more generous with my time. Remember, saying yes to something you don't care about doesn't actually help. You'll do mediocre work. You'll resent it. The person or project deserves someone who's genuinely invested, and that's not you if you're not a hell yes. Saying no frees them to find someone who is. The principle also requires patience. When you start saying no to most things, you'll have more empty space in your life. This can feel uncomfortable. You might worry you're missing out or being too picky, but this space is necessary. It's in this space that hell yes opportunities appear. If your calendar is packed with lukewarm commitments, you won't have room when something genuinely exciting emerges. Think of it like a closet. If your closet is crammed with clothes you kind of like or might wear someday, you won't have space for pieces you truly love. You need to clear out the mediocre to make room for the excellent. The same applies to your time and commitments. The hell yes or hell no standard also improves the quality of your yes responses. When you do say yes, you mean it completely. People can feel the difference. Your enthusiasm is genuine. Your commitment is real. You follow through with energy and creativity. This makes you a better colleague, friend, and collaborator. Not despite being more selective, but because of it. Over time, this practice shapes your life profoundly. Instead of a scattered collection of obligations and activities you're ambivalent about, you build a life focused on things you genuinely value. Your calendar reflects your actual priorities. Your energy goes to what matters. You experience less resentment and more joy. You'll also develop better self-knowledge. The process of checking your gut reaction to opportunities teaches you what you actually care about versus what you think you should care about. You'll discover that some things you thought were important don't excite you at all. Other things you'd overlooked generate immediate enthusiasm. This is valuable information. The principle isn't about perfection or never compromising. Sometimes you'll say yes to things that aren't hell yes because they're genuinely necessary. Certain work obligations, family responsibilities, basic life maintenance. The principle is about having a high standard for optional commitments, for discretionary uses of time and energy. It's about protecting space for what matters by being willing to decline what doesn't. As you prepare for sleep tonight, consider what in your life is truly hell yes. What commitments genuinely excite you? What relationships nourish you? What projects make you eager to start the day? These are the things worth protecting and expanding. Everything else, all the maybes and I supposes and I shoulds, those are candidates for gentle removal. Sleep knowing that tomorrow you can start being more selective. You can start building a life of hell yeses. Rest well. Ask who, not how. Delegate by finding who can do it. There's a question most people ask when facing a task. How do I do this? It seems natural. You need something done, so you figure out the steps, learn the skills, and execute. But there's a different question that changes everything. Who can do this? This shift from how to who is transformative, yet most people never make it. The how question keeps you trapped in execution mode. You're the person who must figure everything out and do everything yourself. You become a bottleneck. Your productivity is limited by your personal capacity, which is finite. You can only do so much in a day. You can only learn so many skills. You can only hold so much in your mind at once. The who question opens up entirely different possibilities. Instead of being limited by what you personally can do, you're limited only by what can be done through others. This exponentially expands what's possible. Other people have skills you lack. They have time when you're busy. They have knowledge you'd take months to acquire. Leveraging who multiplies your effectiveness in ways that optimizing how never can. Let's be clear about what this means. This isn't about dumping tasks on others carelessly. It's not about avoiding work or being lazy. It's about recognizing that different people have different strengths, and the highest value often comes from matching tasks to the people best suited for them. When you spend hours struggling with something that someone else could do easily, you're wasting resources, both yours and the potential value you could create doing what you do best. Think about any successful person or organization. They didn't get there by doing everything themselves. They got there by building teams, hiring specialists, and delegating effectively. The entrepreneur focuses on vision and strategy, while others handle operations. The executive makes key decisions while managers handle implementation. The artist creates while others handle business details. Nobody does everything. The question is always, who should do what? Yet most people resist asking who. They have reasons. It's faster to do it myself. Nobody can do it as well as I can. I don't have money to hire help. I don't want to burden others. These objections feel real, but they're often self-limiting beliefs disguised as practical concerns. It's faster to do it myself is true exactly once. The first time you do something, yes, doing it yourself is faster than teaching someone else. But if it's something you'll do repeatedly, the math changes. Invest time once in teaching or delegating, and save time every subsequent occurrence. Most people dramatically underestimate how much time they waste on repeated tasks they could have delegated. Nobody can do it as well as I can is often ego talking. Yes, you might do certain things better than anyone else. But does this task actually require your unique skills? For genuinely important work, where your specific expertise matters, do it yourself. For everything else, someone else's 80% is better than your 100% if it frees you to focus on high-value work only you can do. I don't have money to hire help assumes delegation requires paid employees. But delegation takes many forms. You can trade skills with someone. You do what they struggle with. They do what you struggle with. You can delegate within existing relationships. Family members, partners, roommates can share tasks based on preference and ability. You can delegate to technology. Automation, software, and tools can handle numerous tasks without human intervention. I don't want to burden others often masks discomfort with asking for help. But delegation, done well, isn't a burden. It's an opportunity. When you hire someone to do work they're good at, you're providing income and purpose. When you delegate to a team member, you're developing their skills and showing trust. When you ask a friend for help with their area of expertise, you're honoring their abilities. Framing delegation as burden rather than opportunity is backwards. The who question starts with awareness. Look at your to-do list. Look at how you spend your time. For each item, ask, am I the only person who can do this? Am I the best person to do this? Is this the best use of my time? These questions surface delegation opportunities you've been missing. Some tasks have clear delegation paths. You need your taxes done. Hire an accountant. You need content written. Hire a writer. You need your house cleaned. Hire a cleaner. You need a website built. Hire a developer. These are straightforward exchanges of money for specialized services. If you earn more per hour than the service costs, or if your time freed up allows you to do something more valuable, the math works. Other tasks require more creative thinking about who. Maybe you're planning an event and feeling overwhelmed by logistics. Who loves organizing? Perhaps a friend who thrives on details. Maybe you need to research options for a major purchase. Who enjoys research? Perhaps a family member who finds comparison shopping satisfying. The key is matching tasks to people who either have relevant skills or genuinely enjoy that type of work. In professional contexts, delegation is leadership. The manager who does everything themselves isn't being dedicated, they're being ineffective. They're not developing their team, they're creating dependency. They're limiting what their team can achieve. Good leaders constantly ask, who on my team should own this? Who would this stretch and develop? Who has the right skills for this? Effective delegation requires clarity. You can't just hand someone a vague task and hope for the best. You need to communicate what success looks like. What's the desired outcome? What's the deadline? What resources are available? What level of decision-making authority does the person have? Clear delegation prevents confusion and rework. You also need to let go of control. This is hard. When you delegate something, it won't be done exactly how you do it. That's okay. Different approaches can still reach good outcomes. If you micromanage every detail, you haven't actually delegated. You've just created overhead. Trust the person you've delegated to. Give them autonomy. Step in only if they ask for help or if outcomes are clearly off track. Sometimes asking who reveals that you're doing things that shouldn't be done at all. You've been handling a task for months. When you ask who else should do it, you realize nobody should do it. It's not actually necessary. It's just something that's always been done. The who question exposes unnecessary work. Technology is an often overlooked answer to who. Who should schedule your social media posts? A scheduling tool. Who should handle basic customer questions? A chatbot or FAQ page. Who should reconcile your receipts? Expense tracking software. Who should remind you of tasks? A task management app. Every hour technology handles something is an hour you have for work that requires human judgment and creativity. The who question also applies to learning. You want to learn something new. Before investing dozens of hours in courses and practice, ask, who already knows this? Who could teach me directly? A 30-minute conversation with an expert often transfers more useful knowledge than hours of independent study. Who has solved this problem before? Learning from others' experience is vastly more efficient than learning from your own trial and error. Building a network of who's is one of the most valuable investments you can make. Cultivate relationships with people who have diverse skills and knowledge. When you need something outside your expertise, you know who to ask. This isn't about using people. It's about creating mutual value. You help them with your expertise. They help you with theirs. The who question changes your relationship with problems. Instead of seeing problems as things you must solve alone, you see them as puzzles where finding the right who is often the solution. Your car is making a noise. Who's a good mechanic? You need to understand complex regulations. Who specializes in this area? You're struggling with productivity. Who's mastered similar challenges? This mindset shift is freeing. You don't need to be good at everything. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to do everything. You need to be clear about what you uniquely should do and willing to find who's for everything else. This allows you to focus your finite energy on your highest contribution. As you wind down tonight, think about what's on your plate. What tasks are draining you? What work are you doing that someone else could do? What problems are you wrestling with that someone else has already solved? Tomorrow you can start asking who instead of how. You can start building leverage through others rather than limiting yourself to personal capacity. That's how you move from busy to effective, from overwhelmed to strategic. Rest now, knowing that you don't have to do everything yourself. There are who's waiting to help. Procrastination. Is wisdom? Use procrastination as a signal. Most people treat procrastination as an enemy, a character flaw, a weakness to overcome. You put off a task, feel guilty about it, force yourself to do it anyway, and promise to stop procrastinating. But what if you've been misunderstanding procrastination all along? What if sometimes procrastination is your subconscious trying to tell you something important? The idea that procrastination is wisdom seems backwards. We're taught that successful people don't procrastinate. They're disciplined. They do what needs doing regardless of whether they feel like it. And there's truth to this. Discipline matters. But blanket condemnation of procrastination ignores a crucial insight. You don't procrastinate on everything. You procrastinate on specific things. And that specificity carries information. Think about tasks you never procrastinate on. Activities you're excited about. Projects that energize you. You don't have to force yourself. You don't need elaborate productivity systems. You just do them. Now think about tasks you chronically procrastinate on. Things that sit on your list for weeks. Projects you dread starting. Activities you avoid despite knowing they're important. Why the difference? Sometimes procrastination signals misalignment. The task doesn't actually serve your goals or values. You've said yes to something you don't care about. You've added it to your list because you thought you should, but deep down, you don't want to do it. Your procrastination is your inner wisdom saying, this doesn't belong in your life. Maybe you're procrastinating on writing that industry report. You committed to it months ago, but you keep avoiding it. Before judging yourself as lazy, ask, is this actually important to me? Does this move me toward what I care about? If the honest answer is no, procrastination is wisdom. It's pointing you toward a different decision. Don't write the report. Decline the commitment. Free yourself from things that don't serve you. Sometimes procrastination signals that you're not the right person for the task. You keep putting off updating your website. You feel guilty about it. But you're not a web designer. You don't enjoy this kind of work. Your procrastination is telling you, delegate this. Find who can do it. Pay someone, trade skills with someone, or find a different solution. Stop forcing yourself to do work you're poorly suited for. Sometimes procrastination signals that the timing is wrong. You're avoiding a project not because it's unimportant, but because other things are more pressing right now. Your subconscious is doing triage. It's saying, not now, later. Instead of beating yourself up, honor this wisdom. Explicitly move the task to next month. Give yourself permission to not do it yet. This reduces guilt and clarifies priorities. Sometimes procrastination signals that the task is poorly defined. You're avoiding it because you don't actually know what you're supposed to do. The project is too vague. Work on the business plan isn't actionable. Your mind doesn't know where to start, so it avoids starting. The wisdom here is, make it concrete. Break it down. Turn work on business plan into write 300 words describing target customers. Suddenly, procrastination often disappears. Sometimes procrastination signals fear. You're avoiding something because it's risky or challenging. You might fail. You might be judged. You might discover you're not as capable as you thought. This kind of procrastination is still information, but the wisdom is different. Here, the message is, this matters to you. This is where growth lives. You need courage, not avoidance. The right response is to lean in, get support, start small, but don't abandon it. The key is learning to distinguish between types of procrastination. Procrastination on misaligned tasks says, eliminate or delegate this. Procrastination on poorly defined tasks says, add clarity. Procrastination on meaningful but scary tasks says, gather courage and support. Each requires a different response. Blanket self-discipline, forcing yourself through everything you procrastinate on, misses these distinctions. Consider how this applies to your current procrastinations. That phone call you keep avoiding. Why? If it's because the conversation will be uncomfortable but necessary, that's fear. Face it. But if it's because this relationship doesn't actually matter to you anymore, that's misalignment. Maybe it's time to let the relationship fade rather than forcing yourself to maintain it. That course you signed up for but haven't started. Why? If it's because you're genuinely interested but intimidated, that's fear. Start with just the first lesson. But if you signed up because everyone said you should and you don't actually care about the topic, that's misalignment. Give yourself permission to not take the course. That creative project that's been sitting dormant for months, why? If it's because you're afraid it won't be good enough, that's fear. Create anyway. Lower the stakes. Make bad versions. But if you're procrastinating because you're no longer interested in this project, that's change priorities. Abandon it without guilt. Your interests are allowed to evolve. This reframing of procrastination removes shame and replaces it with curiosity. Instead of, why am I so lazy? You ask, what is my procrastination trying to tell me? This question opens up problem solving. You become a detective, gathering clues, rather than a defendant proving you're not guilty. Practically, this means creating a regular practice of reviewing what you're procrastinating on. Maybe weekly. Look at tasks that have sat undone. For each one, ask, why am I avoiding this? Be honest. Write down the answer. Then ask, what would wisdom say? Should I eliminate this, delegate it, reframe it, or face the fear and do it? Make a conscious choice. This approach does require some nuance. You can't use procrastination as wisdom as an excuse to avoid all difficult or uncomfortable tasks. Growth requires doing hard things. Responsibility means following through on commitments. The principle isn't never do anything you don't feel like doing. It's procrastination is data. Use it wisely. You'll need to develop discernment. Is this procrastination protecting you from misaligned work, or is it fear disguised as wisdom? One test. Imagine this task completely done. How do you feel? Relieved and satisfied, or indifferent? If you'd feel genuinely good about completion, it's probably fear-based procrastination. Do the task. If you'd feel nothing or even resentful about having done it, it's probably misalignment. Remove the task. Another test. Imagine someone else doing this task perfectly. How do you feel? Relieved and grateful, or disappointed and jealous? If relieved, delegate it. If disappointed, you actually want to do it, you're just afraid. So work through the fear. Reframing procrastination as wisdom also changes your relationship with time. You stop trying to optimize every minute. You recognize that sometimes the productive thing is to not do the thing, to let it sit, to see if it's really necessary. This creates spaciousness. It reduces the frantic energy of trying to catch up on everything. It allows priorities to clarify naturally. This principle pairs beautifully with others we've discussed. Hell yes or hell no helps you not create misaligned commitments in the first place. Ask who not. How helps you delegate tasks you're procrastinating on because they're outside your strengths. The 2-minute rule helps you complete small tasks before procrastination even starts. Over time, listening to procrastination trains you to commit more carefully. You learn which types of tasks you'll naturally avoid. You factor this into decisions. I know I don't enjoy detailed administrative work, so if I agree to this role, I'll need support with that aspect. This self-knowledge prevents future procrastination by creating realistic structures. You also learn to differentiate productive waiting from avoidance. Sometimes projects need incubation. Ideas need time to develop. Problems need to sit in your subconscious. This isn't procrastination, it's part of the creative process. Learning to honor this timing while also recognizing actual avoidance is a valuable skill. As you settle into sleep tonight, release any guilt about things you've been procrastinating on. Tomorrow, you can look at them with fresh eyes, not as evidence of weakness, but as messengers carrying information. What are they trying to tell you? What needs to change? Trust that your procrastination might be wiser than your conscious plans. Listen to it. Learn from it. Let it guide you toward better alignment between your commitments and your truth. Rest easy. Knowing procrastination isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's a friend in disguise. 90-91 rule. For 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes on one high-impact task. Imagine waking up every day for 3 months and knowing exactly what you'll do first. For 90 consecutive days, the first 90 minutes of your workday belong to one thing, your most important, highest impact task. Nothing else. Just that one thing. This is the essence of the 90-91 rule, and it's one of the most powerful productivity commitments you can make. Why 90 days? Because 90 days is long enough to create real progress on significant goals while being short enough to maintain focus and urgency. 3 months is enough time to write a book draft, build a substantial project, develop a new skill, or transform a business area. But it's not so long that the end feels infinitely distant. You can see 90 days. You can commit to 90 days. Why 90 minutes? Because 90 minutes represents a sweet spot for deep work. It's long enough to get into flow, to make meaningful progress, to think deeply and create substantially. But it's not so long that it feels overwhelming or impossible to protect. Most people can find or create 90 minutes, especially first thing in the day before the chaos begins. Why the first 90 minutes? Because you're at your best early. Your willpower is highest. Your mental energy is fullest. Distractions haven't accumulated yet. Email hasn't hijacked your attention. Meetings haven't fragmented your day. The first 90 minutes are pristine. If you use them well, everything else that day is bonus. If you waste them on reactive work, you've lost your best hours. The compound effect of this practice is extraordinary. 90 minutes per day for 90 days equals 135 hours of focused effort on your highest impact work. That's nearly 3.5 full-time work weeks of deep, concentrated attention on something important. Most people don't give their most important goals 3 hours of total focus time, let alone 135 hours. What qualifies as a high-impact task? It's the work that moves your most important goal forward. The writing, if you're working on a book. The coding, if you're building a product. The practice, if you're developing a skill. The strategic thinking, if you're growing a business. The creative work, if you're an artist. It's whatever represents your highest leverage activity. The thing that, if you did it consistently, would change everything. It's not email. It's not meetings. It's not administrative tasks. It's not urgent but unimportant fires. Those things might need doing, but they're not your high-impact work. They're not what you'll look back on in a year and credit with your most significant progress. The 90-91 rule protects your highest value work from being crowded out by everything else. Starting this practice requires setup. First, identify your one high-impact task. Be specific. Not work on project, but write 1,000 words of Chapter 3, or code the user authentication feature, or create content for the marketing campaign. You need clarity about what you're committing to do each day during your 90 minutes. Second, protect your 90 minutes fiercely. This means setting boundaries, turn off notifications, close your email, silence your phone, tell people you're unavailable, book the time on your calendar as a non-negotiable appointment with your most important work. Treat it with the same respect you'd give a meeting with your most important client or your biggest opportunity. Third, prepare the night before. Don't waste your precious 90 minutes figuring out what to do or gathering materials. Know exactly what you'll work on. Have your materials ready. Have your workspace prepared. When your 90 minutes begin, you should be able to start immediately. No friction, no delay. The first week will be hard. You'll feel the pull of email and other urgencies. Your brain will suggest that maybe you should just quickly check a few things first. Resist. Your agreement with yourself is 90 minutes on the high-impact task first, then everything else. Every day you honor this agreement strengthens your ability to do it again tomorrow. By week 2, it starts feeling more natural. You've built momentum. You've seen progress. You've experienced the satisfaction of starting your day with meaningful work instead of reactive scrambling. The practice begins to feel less like discipline and more like preference. You start looking forward to your 90 minutes. By week 4, it's becoming habit. You don't have to force it as much. Your brain expects it. Your schedule accommodates it. Other people have learned that you're not available during this time. You've proven to yourself that you can protect this space, and the results are motivating you to continue. By day 90, you've transformed something. Maybe you've completed a project. Maybe you've made extraordinary progress on a long-term goal. Maybe you've developed a skill significantly. But beyond the specific output, you've proven something profound. That you can commit to your priorities. That you can resist the urgent in favor of the important. That you have agency over how you spend your time. The 90-91 rule also teaches you about yourself. You discover your real capacity for focused work. You learn when your energy naturally peaks. You identify what drains your focus and what protects it. You understand which environments support your best work. This self-knowledge becomes a lasting asset beyond the 90 days. You'll also discover what isn't working. Maybe your high-impact task is wrong, not actually important, or not actually suited to your skills. Maybe 90 minutes is too long or too short for your natural rhythm. Maybe mornings aren't actually your best time. The commitment reveals these truths and you can adjust, but you can't discover them without the commitment. Some people worry. What if something truly urgent happens during my 90 minutes? Real emergencies are rare. Most things that feel urgent can wait 90 minutes. But if something truly can't wait, a real crisis, a real emergency, then you handle it. The rule isn't meant to make you rigid or irresponsible. It's meant to protect important work from being crowded out by false urgencies 99% of the time. After 90 days, you face a choice. You can take a break, having completed this cycle. You can start a new 90-day cycle with the same focus if there's more to do. Or you can start a new cycle with a different high-impact task. The 90-day structure allows for both sustained focus and intentional transitions. Many people discover that after experiencing the power of this practice, they don't want to stop. It becomes their permanent way of working. The first 90 minutes forever belong to high-impact work. This isn't restrictive, it's liberating. When you know you're giving your best time to your best work, you can handle everything else with less stress. You've already done what matters most. The 90-91 rule works because it combines several powerful principles. It leverages your peak energy. It creates consistency through daily practice. It produces visible results through accumulated effort. It protects priorities through clear boundaries. And it builds identity. You become someone who does their most important work first, every single day. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, consider what your next 90 days could look like. What one high-impact task, if you gave it your first 90 minutes every day for 90 days, would transform your life? What would you accomplish? Who would you become? Tomorrow morning could be day one of your 90-91 journey. But first, sleep deeply. Your important work will be waiting for you, ready for your best self and your best time. Dream of what's possible when you consistently give your peak hours to your peak priorities. 12-week year. Treat. 12 months of goals as 12 weeks. There's something curious about how we treat time. Give someone 12 months to accomplish a goal, and they'll use 12 months. The first few months feel distant. There's plenty of time. Why rush? Momentum builds slowly. Urgency arrives only when deadlines loom. By then, panic replaces planning. This is how most annual goals fail. Now imagine treating 12 months of goals as if you only had 12 weeks. Suddenly, everything changes. There's no time for slow starts, no room for vague intentions, no luxury of, "I'll get to it eventually." 12 weeks creates immediate urgency. It compresses time in a way that focuses attention and accelerates action. This is the 12-week year concept. Instead of planning in 12-month cycles, you plan in 12-week sprints. You take what you'd normally aim to accomplish in a year and commit to achieving it in 12 weeks. This seems impossible at first, but here's the secret. Most annual goals don't actually require 12 months of work. They require focused, consistent effort that we dilute across 12 months. Because that's the time frame we've given ourselves. Think about Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time available. If you have a year to complete a project, you'll unconsciously pace yourself to use that year. You'll have slow months. You'll procrastinate. You'll get distracted. You'll tell yourself there's time to catch up later. The generous deadline creates slack, and slack creates mediocrity. But if you have 12 weeks, everything tightens. You can't afford slow months. You must start immediately. You must maintain momentum. You must eliminate distractions. You must focus. The constraint forces excellence. It's remarkable how much more you accomplish when you genuinely believe time is scarce. The 12-week year creates 4 quarters per actual year. Each quarter is its own complete cycle. You set goals. You execute intensely for 12 weeks. You review results. Then you start a fresh 12-week cycle with new or continuing goals. This creates multiple opportunities per year for achievement and course correction. Compare this to annual planning. You set goals in January. By March, you're off track. By June, you've forgotten half your goals. By September, you're telling yourself you'll catch up in the 4th quarter. By December, you're disappointed. Then you set new goals for next year, secretly knowing you'll probably experience the same pattern. The annual cycle is too long to maintain urgency and too short to accommodate the lackadaisical pace it encourages. 12-week cycles prevent this. You can't drift for months because there are no months to drift through. Week 1 matters. Week 6 matters. Every single week represents more than 8% of your entire cycle. You feel the weight of each week. This feeling drives action. The structure is simple. At the start of each 12-week period, you identify your most important goals for this quarter. Not 20 goals, maybe 3 to 5 significant objectives. What absolutely must happen in the next 12 weeks? These become your focus. Everything else is secondary or eliminated. For each goal, you define specific metrics. Not grow the business, but acquire 20 new clients. Not get healthy, but exercise 3 times per week and lose 12 pounds. Not write a book, but complete 30,000 words of draft manuscript. Specificity creates accountability. You'll know without ambiguity whether you achieved your 12-week goals. Then you break each goal into weekly actions. What must happen each week to stay on track? If your goal is 30,000 words in 12 weeks, that's 2,500 words per week. You schedule time for those 2,500 words. You protect that time. You execute. Each week, you check. Did I do what I committed to? If yes, you're on track. If no, you're immediately aware and can adjust. This weekly accountability is crucial. You're never more than 7 days away from measuring progress. You can't hide from results. You can't pretend you're on track when you're not. The feedback loop is tight. This prevents the delusion that plagues annual goals, where you're doing fine until suddenly you're not, and it's too late. The 12-week time frame also makes it easier to say no. When someone asks you to take on a new commitment, you can evaluate it against your 12-week goals. Will this help me achieve what I'm committed to for this quarter? If not, you can decline without guilt. You're not being unhelpful. You're being focused. Your goals are clear. Your time is finite, and you're protecting what matters. 12 weeks is also long enough to accomplish meaningful things. You can write a substantial portion of a book. You can build a significant project. You can develop real skills. You can create measurable business growth. You're not limited to tiny goals, but 12 weeks is short enough that you can see the finish line from the starting line. This visibility maintains motivation. The psychology of fresh starts matters too. Every 12 weeks, you get a clean slate. If this quarter didn't go well, you're not waiting until next year for another chance. In just weeks, you begin again. This removes the despair of annual failure. It creates resilience. One bad quarter doesn't define you. You have 3 more chances this year. The system also allows for learning. After 12 weeks, you review. What worked? What didn't? Were your goals realistic? Was your weekly plan effective? Did you protect your time adequately? You gather data. Then you apply those lessons immediately in your next 12-week cycle. Learning compounds quarter after quarter. Some people discover their goals were too ambitious. They aimed to write 50,000 words, but only managed 20,000. That's valuable information. Next quarter, they set a goal of 25,000 words. Still a stretch, but more realistic. They're learning their sustainable pace. Others discover their goals were too timid. They easily exceeded their targets. Next quarter, they aim higher. They're discovering their real capacity, which is often far greater than they assumed. The 12-week year also surfaces priorities through what you actually do versus what you say matters. You might say finishing your certification is a priority, but if 12 weeks pass and you haven't studied, you've learned something. Either it's not actually a priority, or something is blocking you. This honesty is uncomfortable but valuable. One challenge is maintaining intensity for 12 weeks. 12 weeks of focused effort is genuinely demanding. You can't coast. You can't take entire weeks off. You must show up consistently. This requires energy management. Sleep matters. Exercise matters. Breaks matter. You're not sprinting unsustainably. You're running at a strong, maintainable pace for 12 weeks. Some people worry about burnout, but consider the alternative. Spreading yourself thin across 12 months, feeling perpetually behind, never experiencing the satisfaction of complete goal achievement. That creates chronic, low-grade stress. The 12-week year, by contrast, creates intense but time-bound effort, followed by recovery and new beginnings. This rhythm is more sustainable than perpetual, unfocused busyness. The approach works for various life areas. Professional goals fit naturally. Business growth, project completion, skill development. But personal goals work too. Relationship goals. Have a meaningful date with my partner every week for 12 weeks. Health goals. Exercise 150 minutes per week for 12 weeks. Learning goals. Complete this online course and build 3 practice projects in 12 weeks. You can align multiple life areas within one 12-week cycle. Maybe you have one professional goal, one health goal, and one relationship goal. 3 areas, 12 weeks, all getting focused attention. This creates balanced growth without the overwhelm of trying to improve everything simultaneously all year long. The execution is key. Weekly planning sessions keep you on track. Sunday evening or Monday morning, you review the past week and plan the coming week. Did you complete your weekly actions? If not, why not? What will you do this week? What's on your calendar? What might interfere? This weekly check-in takes maybe 30 minutes, but provides crucial course correction. You also need accountability. Some people use accountability partners, someone else running their own 12-week year who checks in with you weekly. Some people join groups focused on this approach. Some people simply self-report in a journal. The key is creating external commitment. When only you know your goals, it's easier to let yourself off the hook. When others know, you're more likely to follow through. At the end of 12 weeks, celebrate regardless of whether you hit every target. You gave 12 weeks of focused effort to important goals. That's worth acknowledging. Maybe you didn't achieve everything you hoped, but you accomplished far more than if you'd been casually pursuing annual goals. Honor that progress. Then, with minimal delay, you start planning your next 12 weeks. What are your goals for this new quarter? What did you learn from the last 12 weeks that you'll apply now? What new opportunities or priorities have emerged? You're not starting from scratch. You're building on what you've learned. Each 12-week cycle makes you more effective at the next. Over time, this approach transforms how you think about time. 12 weeks starts feeling like a natural unit. You see opportunities in terms of quarters. You evaluate commitments against 12-week horizons. You develop confidence in your ability to accomplish meaningful things in focused timeframes. You stop overestimating what you can do in a year while underestimating what you can do in 12 focused weeks. Tonight, as you rest, imagine your next 12 weeks, not your next year, just 12 weeks. What could you accomplish if you brought real focus and urgency to that time? What goal matters enough to commit 12 weeks of consistent effort? You don't need to have all the answers tonight. Just let the possibility settle in your mind. 12 weeks. Focused. Intentional. Starting fresh. Sleep well, knowing that powerful time frames don't require 12 months. Sometimes, 12 weeks changes everything. Biological prime time. Do your most important work when you're naturally most energetic. Your body runs on rhythms. Energy rises and falls throughout the day in predictable patterns. Your focus sharpens and dulls. Your creativity flows and ebbs. Your motivation strengthens and weakens. These aren't random fluctuations. They're biological cycles as real as hunger and tiredness. Yet most people ignore them, trying to force productivity during low-energy periods while wasting high-energy periods on trivial tasks. This is where biological prime time comes in. It's the window during your day when your mental energy, focus, and capability are at their peak. For some people, this is early morning. They wake sharp, alert, ready to think clearly. For others, it's late morning or early afternoon. For night owls, it might be evening. There's no universal right time. There's only your time, determined by your unique biology. Discovering your biological prime time requires paying attention. For 1 or 2 weeks, track your energy throughout the day. Every hour or two, note how you feel. Are you alert or foggy? Focused or distracted? Creative or mechanical? Energized or drained? Don't judge these fluctuations, just observe them. Patterns will emerge. You might discover you're sharpest from 8 to 11 in the morning, or from 2 to 5 in the afternoon, or from 9 in the evening until midnight. Whatever your pattern, that's your biological prime time. That's when your brain is operating at its best. That's when you should be doing your most demanding, most important work. Most people do the opposite. They wake up in their prime time and immediately dive into email. They spend their peak mental hours on reactive tasks, responding to messages, attending meetings, handling small administrative items. By the time they get to important creative or strategic work, their energy is depleted. They're running on fumes, trying to do high-value work with low-grade energy. It doesn't work well. The cost of this misalignment is enormous. Imagine writing when your brain is sharp versus when it's exhausted. The sharp version produces clear thinking, good sentences, creative connections. The exhausted version produces muddy thinking, awkward sentences, derivative ideas. The quality difference is dramatic, yet both versions use the same time. The only difference is when. The same applies to any cognitively demanding work. Coding during prime time versus during energy lulls. Strategizing during peak focus versus when distracted. Creating during high energy windows versus low energy periods. The input, your time, is constant. The output varies wildly based on when you do the work. Honoring your biological prime time means protecting it zealously. If your prime time is morning, you don't schedule early meetings. You don't check email first thing. You don't do administrative tasks. You defend those hours for your highest value work. Everything else happens outside prime time. This requires saying no. A colleague wants to meet at 9 in the morning. That's your prime time. You offer 11 instead, or afternoon, or another day. You don't explain your entire productivity philosophy. You simply aren't available then. Most people will accommodate without question. It also requires structure. You can't just hope that prime time will naturally go to important work. You must schedule it. Block your calendar. Create rituals that transition you into deep work mode. Prepare the night before so when prime time arrives, you can begin immediately without friction. What about jobs where you don't control your schedule? Where meetings happen when they happen? Even here, you have more control than you think. You can advocate for protecting certain times. You can schedule your own deep work before others fill your calendar. You can negotiate. Most bosses, when they understand the productivity gain, will support protecting your prime time for high-value work. If you truly can't control your prime time at work, you can still leverage it outside work. If your prime time is evening, that's when you work on your side project, your creative pursuit, your learning. You don't waste those hours watching television or scrolling social media. You use them for what matters most to you. Biological prime time also explains why one-size-fits-all productivity advice often fails. Some expert says, wake at 5 and work on your goals before the day starts. Great advice if 5 to 7 is your prime time. Terrible advice if your brain doesn't wake up until 10. You're not lazy or undisciplined, you're just running different biology. The key is working with your natural rhythms, not against them. If you're a night person trying to force morning productivity, you're fighting biology. You might succeed through willpower for a while, but it's exhausting and unsustainable. Better to accept your natural pattern and design your life around it. This doesn't mean you can never work outside prime time. Most days contain more work than your prime time can accommodate. You'll do tasks during lower energy periods too. The point is, matching task difficulty to energy levels. Prime time gets the most demanding work. Medium energy gets medium difficulty tasks. Low energy gets easy, mechanical work or rest. Email, for instance, requires minimal cognitive effort. You can process email during low energy windows. Same with administrative tasks, scheduling, filing, organizing. These are perfect for energy valleys. They need doing. but they don't need your best mental state. Meetings are trickier. Some meetings need your sharp thinking, strategic planning, problem solving, important negotiations. Schedule these during prime time if possible. Other meetings are informational or social. You need to attend but don't need peak mental state. Schedule these outside prime time. Learning and practice also deserve prime time consideration. If you're developing a new skill, your practice quality depends heavily on focus and energy. Practicing piano during prime time versus when exhausted produces different results. The exhausted practice might even reinforce mistakes. Quality practice requires quality attention. Some people have multiple energy peaks, one in morning, another in early evening, with a lull in between. This is normal. You have 2 prime time windows. Use both strategically. Morning prime time for one type of work, evening prime time for another. Your biological prime time isn't fixed permanently. It can shift with life stages, seasons, or health changes. Stay aware. If you notice your energy pattern changing, adapt. Don't cling rigidly to old schedules if they're no longer serving you. Age affects prime time too. Many people become more morning-oriented as they age. Teenagers and young adults often have later prime times. Honor where you are now, not where you were or where you think you should be. Protecting prime time also means protecting the conditions that enable prime time. If you need good sleep to have morning energy, protect your sleep. If you need exercise to have afternoon focus, protect your exercise time. If you need quiet to have evening creativity, protect your boundaries. Prime time doesn't happen automatically. It emerges from good self-care. Caffeine and stimulants can mask energy patterns, but don't change underlying biology. You might use coffee to boost energy during a natural lull, but you're borrowing energy from later. Better to work with natural peaks than create artificial ones that lead to crashes. The biological prime time principle combines beautifully with other productivity concepts. The 90-91 rule suggests doing your most important work first thing daily. If first thing aligns with your prime time, perfect. If not, adjust. Maybe your 90 minutes of high-impact work happens mid-morning when your prime time actually peaks. Similarly, eat the frog, tackling your hardest task first, works best during prime time. If your prime time is morning, eating the frog at dawn makes sense. If your prime time is evening, save the frog for then. The principle remains. The timing adjusts to your biology. Understanding prime time also improves collaboration. If you're working with a partner or team, knowing everyone's prime times helps schedule thoughtfully. Your team's morning person and night owl can coordinate. Deep collaborative work happens in the overlap of their good hours, or they divide work to leverage each person's prime time individually. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, reflect on your energy patterns. When did you feel most alert and capable today? When did you struggle? Over the coming days, pay attention. Discover your biological prime time, then honor it. Give your best hours to your best work. Let everything else fit around that core commitment. This one alignment, matching your most important work to your most energetic time, might be the single highest leverage change you can make. Rest now. Your prime time tomorrow awaits. Use it well. 80% rule. Get to 80% quickly and solicit feedback. Perfectionism is a trap. It masquerades as quality consciousness, as high standards, as care about your work. But often, it's fear dressed up as diligence, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being seen as less than excellent. This fear keeps you polishing, refining, adjusting, long past the point of meaningful improvement. You might spend 20% of your time getting to 80% completion, then 80% of your time trying to get from 80 to 95%. The 80% rule offers a different path. Get to 80% as quickly as you can, then solicit feedback before perfecting further. Share the rough draft, show the imperfect version, present the work in progress. Let others respond while it's still easy to adjust before you've invested so much that changing direction feels devastating. Why 80%? Because 80% is usually good enough to communicate your core idea. It's complete enough that people understand what you're creating. It's developed enough that feedback can be specific and useful. But it's incomplete enough that you haven't overinvested. You haven't fallen in love with every detail. You're still flexible. Think about writing. An 80% draft has all the main ideas, the structure, the flow. The arguments are there, the examples exist, but the prose isn't polished. Some sections need expansion. Some transitions are clunky. That's fine. At 80%, a reader can tell you, this section is confusing. This argument needs support. This example doesn't work. That feedback is gold. You can revise effectively. Compare this to showing someone a 98% polished piece. You've spent hours on every sentence. You've crafted perfect transitions. You've checked every fact. Then someone says, I don't think this section belongs here at all. You're crushed. All that polishing effort now feels wasted. You resent the feedback. You might ignore it because accepting it means undoing so much work. Early feedback, when work is at 80%, prevents this. You haven't overinvested yet. You're still in learning mode. You welcome input because it makes your final product better without costing excessive rework. The feedback improves your direction while you still have time and energy to incorporate it. This principle applies everywhere. Design work. Show rough mock-ups before pixel-perfect designs. Product development. Get a functional prototype in front of users before building elaborate features. Business strategy. Present the outline and key points before crafting the full, beautiful presentation. Teaching. Try the rough version of your course before recording perfect videos. The 80% approach also reveals a truth. Often, 80% is actually sufficient. Your internal perfectionist imagines the audience demands 98%, but frequently, recipients are satisfied with 80. They don't need or even want the extra polish. They just need the core value delivered. The last 20% you agonize over might be invisible or irrelevant to them. This doesn't mean sloppiness. It means appropriateness. Match your effort to what's actually needed. A casual email doesn't need perfect prose. A quick presentation to a small team doesn't need graphic design excellence. An experimental project doesn't need production-level finish. Save your perfection effort for the few things where it genuinely matters. Getting comfortable showing 80% work requires overcoming shame. We're conditioned to show only finished, polished work. Showing something incomplete feels vulnerable. What if people think we're incompetent? What if they judge us? These fears are real but often overblown. In reality, most people appreciate seeing work in progress. It invites collaboration. It shows humility. It creates opportunities for their input to matter. The phrase soliciting feedback is important. You're not passively hoping someone might comment. You're actively asking, here's where I am. What do you think? What's working? What's not? What am I missing? This explicit request frames the interaction. People understand you're sharing work in progress. They're more likely to give honest, useful feedback. Choose your feedback sources wisely. Not everyone needs to see 80% work. Your boss might need 95% before you present. Your client might need 85%. Your colleague whom you trust might see 50%. Different audiences, different standards. The key is someone seeing it before you're so invested that feedback becomes painful. The 80% approach also accelerates learning. Every feedback cycle teaches you something. If you complete fewer projects to perfection, you get fewer learning cycles. If you complete more projects to 80% and iterate based on feedback, you learn faster. You discover what actually matters. You calibrate your instincts. You develop judgment. This is especially valuable when you're learning something new. Your first attempt at anything won't be perfect. Why spend weeks perfecting a first attempt when you could get feedback quickly, learn what you misunderstood, and apply that learning to attempt 2? Early feedback on imperfect work is the fastest path to competence. For some, the 80% rule feels like lowering standards. It's not. It's strategic deployment of effort. It's recognizing that the goal isn't perfection, it's impact. A decent solution that exists and gets feedback is better than a perfect solution that never ships because you endlessly refined it. Done and out there beats perfect and invisible. This principle also combats overthinking. Perfectionists imagine every possible critique and try to preemptively address it. They add sections nobody asked for. They over-explain. They anticipate objections that might not exist. This creates bloated, defensive work. By contrast, getting to 80% and asking what's needed keeps work lean. You add only what's actually valuable, not what you anxiously imagine might be necessary. The feedback you receive at 80% also validates whether you're solving the right problem. Sometimes you've been working on the wrong thing. Early feedback catches this before you've wasted too much time. You can pivot. You can redirect. You maintain agility. If you wait until 98%, pivot costs are astronomical. Implementation is straightforward. On your next project, identify what 80% looks like. Maybe it's a draft with all sections, but rough writing. Maybe it's a prototype with core features, but no polish. Maybe it's a presentation with key slides, but minimal formatting. Once you hit that mark, resist the urge to keep polishing. Instead, find someone to review it. Ask specific questions, listen openly, then incorporate what you learn. You'll probably feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. You're breaking a deeply ingrained habit of showing only finished work. Push through. Each time you share 80% work and receive helpful feedback, you'll build confidence in this approach. You'll see how much better the final product is because of early input. You'll wonder why you ever waited so long to get feedback. Over time, the 80% rule changes your relationship with perfection. You realize perfection isn't the goal. Value is the goal. Service is the goal. Impact is the goal. Sometimes perfection serves those goals. Often, 80% plus feedback serves them better. You become more focused on outcomes and less attached to process. You become more collaborative and less isolated. You become more effective. As you settle into sleep tonight, think about any current project you're working on. Where is it now? Have you passed 80%? If so, who could give you feedback before you polish further? If not, what's the minimum you need to complete to get to 80? Tomorrow, you could choose speed and feedback over perfection and isolation. You could choose learning over proving. You could choose done over perfect. Rest well, knowing that 80% shared is often worth more than 100% hidden. Eat the frog. Do your hardest or most important task. First thing, each morning, there's a task on your list that you've been avoiding. You know the one. It's difficult or uncomfortable or complex. Every day you look at it, and every day you find reasons to do other things first. You check email. You handle easy tasks. You have coffee. You organize your desk. You tell yourself you're warming up, getting ready, building momentum. But really, you're procrastinating. You're letting the hard things sit there, growing heavier in your mind. Mark Twain supposedly said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. The metaphor is perfect. Nobody wants to eat a frog. It's unpleasant. It requires resolve. But if you must do it, doing it first means it's done. The rest of your day is free. You're not carrying the weight of that undone thing. Eating the frog means identifying your hardest or most important task. Often they're the same thing, and tackling it first, before anything else. Not after email, not after easier tasks. First, when you're fresh, when your willpower is strongest, when your mind is clearest, before the day's friction accumulates. Why does this work? Because willpower is a finite resource. Studies show that decision-making and self-control deplete throughout the day. Every choice you make, every temptation you resist, every task you force yourself to do, all of these consume willpower. By evening, you're running on empty. This is why difficult tasks feel impossible at 5 in the afternoon, but manageable at 8 in the morning. If you leave your frog until later, you're betting that depleted willpower, you will have the strength to tackle it. That's a bad bet. Depleted, you will find excuses, will rationalize, will say, I'll definitely do it tomorrow. But tomorrow morning, the same cycle repeats. The frog never gets eaten, it just sits there, creating guilt and stress. Eating the frog first flips this dynamic. Fresh, resourced morning, you has the capacity to handle hard things. You bring full energy to the challenge, and once it's done, everything else feels lighter. The difficult thing is behind you. Whatever else happens today, you've accomplished the most important thing. This creates momentum and confidence that carries through your entire day. The frog is often the task with the highest impact. The strategic work, the creative project, the difficult conversation, the complex problem solving. These tasks don't have urgent deadlines screaming at you, but they're what actually moves your life or career forward. Easy, urgent tasks demand attention. Important, difficult tasks quietly wait. Eating the frog ensures the important doesn't get perpetually sacrificed to the urgent. Identifying your frog requires honesty. It's not just the hardest task, it's the hardest task that actually matters. Reorganizing your entire filing system might be difficult, but if it's not important, it's not your frog. Your frog is the task that, if completed, will make real difference. The proposal you need to write, the project you need to start, the decision you need to make, the skill practice that will develop your capability. Sometimes your frog is obvious. You've been avoiding it for days. Just thinking about it creates resistance. That's your frog. Other times, you need to examine your list and ask, what would make today successful? What task, if completed, would I feel best about? That's likely your frog. Some people have multiple candidates, several hard, important tasks. Mark Twain's advice applies. Eat the biggest frog first. If you have two difficult tasks, do the more difficult or more important one first. Don't do the medium-hard task as a warm-up. That's still avoidance. Do the actual hardest thing. Eating the frog requires preparation. You can't wake up, stare at your list, and then decide what your frog is. By then, your brain will negotiate. It will suggest easier alternatives. Instead, identify your frog the night before. Write it down. Tomorrow morning, first thing, I'm going to tackle X. When you wake, there's no decision to make. You know what you're doing. Clear your environment to support frog eating. If your frog is writing, have your document open and ready. If it's a difficult conversation, have the person's contact information at hand. If it's complex problem solving, have your materials prepared. Remove friction. Make starting as easy as possible, because starting is the hardest part. Protect your frog time fiercely. Turn off notifications. Don't check email. Don't answer calls. Tell people you're unavailable. This isn't selfishness. This is you doing your most important work when you're most capable of doing it well. Everything else can wait an hour or two. The world will not collapse if you're unreachable during your frog-eating time. You'll feel resistance when you start. That's normal. Your brain will suggest checking just one quick thing first. Just look at email real quick. Just see what's on the news. Just tidy your desk. These are avoidance tactics. Recognize them. Gently refuse. Start the frog anyway. The resistance usually fades once you're actually engaged in the work. Sometimes the frog is overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. Break it into smaller pieces. You don't have to eat the entire frog at once. Eat one leg. Tomorrow, another leg. The key is making progress on the difficult thing first, even if you can't complete it in one session. Starting is victory. Progress compounds. What if you discover mid-frog that it's harder than expected? Keep going if possible. Commit to a minimum time, say 30 minutes or an hour, on your frog before switching to anything else. Usually 30 minutes is enough to break through initial resistance and make real headway. If you genuinely hit a wall, okay, but you've given it your best time and energy. That's what matters. Eating the frog creates a profound psychological shift. When difficult work happens first, it's happening from choice, not desperation. You're not cramming at the last minute in panic mode. You're thoughtfully, calmly addressing what matters most. This feels completely different. There's dignity in choosing to tackle hard things when you don't have to, before urgency forces you. The practice also builds confidence. Each morning you eat your frog. You prove to yourself that you can do hard things. You're not weak. You're not a procrastinator. You're someone who faces challenges directly. This identity shift matters. It affects how you see yourself and what you believe you're capable of. Over weeks and months, eating the frog daily transforms your results. All those important but not urgent tasks that typically get neglected, they're getting done. The book gets written, the business gets built, the skills get developed, the relationships get tended, because you're consistently giving your best time to what matters most. Contrast this with the alternative. Starting each day with email and easy tasks feels comfortable, but you're giving your peak energy to other people's agendas and to low-value work. By the time you get to your frog, if you get to it at all, you're tired. The work suffers, or it doesn't happen. And days turn into weeks, turn into months of not making progress on what actually matters. The Eat the Frog principle pairs beautifully with biological prime time. If your prime time is morning, eating the frog first means tackling your hardest task during your best hours. Perfect alignment. If your prime time is later, you adjust. Eat your frog during your prime time, whatever that is. The principle remains. Hard and important work gets your best energy, not your leftovers. Some worry, but what about urgent things that come up? Real emergencies are rare. Most things that feel urgent can wait an hour or two while you eat your frog. If something truly cannot wait, handle it. But be honest, is it really an emergency? Or is it an excuse to avoid the frog? Most of the time, it's an excuse. The frog can wait has become our default, when really, everything else can wait should be our default. You might also wonder, what if I don't have an obvious frog every day? Some days, everything on your list is relatively straightforward. Great. Pick the most important task and do it first anyway. The principle still applies. Important before urgent. Valuable before easy. Strategic before reactive. Even on days without a clear frog, starting with your highest value work sets a positive tone. The hardest part of eating the frog is the moment right before you start. Your mind generates reasons to delay. I need coffee first. I should check if anything urgent came in overnight. Maybe I should do a few easy wins to build momentum. All lies, all resistance. The coffee can come after. Email can wait. Easy wins don't build the right kind of momentum. They build avoidance patterns. Instead, use this simple rule. Within 30 minutes of beginning your workday, you start your frog. No email, no social media, no news, no easy tasks, just the frog. This constraint removes negotiation. You have 30 minutes to get coffee, settle in, maybe review your plan. Then it's frog time, non-negotiable. After you finish your frog, or after you've given it substantial time, everything else is bonus. You've done the most important thing. The day is already successful. This changes how you experience the rest of your day. Less pressure, less guilt, less anxiety. You can handle other tasks knowing the crucial one is handled. Some days, eating the frog means you don't get to much else. The frog took all your focus and energy. That's fine. Better to complete one important thing than scatter yourself across 10 unimportant things. Better to make real progress on what matters than to check off a bunch of trivial items. Tonight, before you sleep, identify tomorrow's frog. What task are you dreading? What task, if done, would make tomorrow feel successful? What's been sitting on your list, creating guilt? That's your frog. Write it down. Commit to eating it first thing. Don't negotiate with yourself tomorrow morning. The decision is made now. Tomorrow, you just execute. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow you'll face the hard thing directly, with your full strength, and get it done. The rest of the day will be lighter for it. Parkinson's law. Work expands to the time allotted. Set shorter deadlines. There's a fascinating observation about work and time. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Give yourself a week to write a report and it will take a week. Give yourself a day and you'll finish it in a day. The content might be similar, the quality might be comparable, but somehow the work magically fits the container you give it. This is Parkinson's Law, named after British historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson, who observed this phenomenon in bureaucracies. It's not about laziness or inefficiency in the negative sense. It's about how human psychology and behavior respond to time constraints. When we have abundant time, we use it. We expand the work. We add complexity. We overthink. We procrastinate. We iterate unnecessarily. When time is scarce, something different happens. We focus. We eliminate non-essentials. We decide quickly. We execute efficiently. We cut out the meandering and get to the core. Scarcity forces clarity. It reveals what actually matters versus what we do simply because we have time. Think about packing for a trip. If you start packing 3 days before departure, you'll agonize over every item. You'll try on multiple outfits. You'll pack and repack. You'll add just-in-case items. The process consumes hours. But if you're packing 1 hour before you leave, you grab essentials and go. Somehow, you manage fine with the quickly packed bag. The 3-day version wasn't better. It was just slower. Or consider meetings. Schedule a meeting for 1 hour and it fills 1 hour. Discussion wanders. Topics get revisited. The same meeting scheduled for 30 minutes covers the same ground in half the time. Why? Because scarcity imposes discipline. People focus. They prepare better. They skip tangents. The shorter meeting is often more productive than the longer one. Parkinson's Law applies to projects of any size. A task you estimate will take 3 hours probably doesn't need 3 hours. It needs the focused work you'll deliver if you only have 2 hours. The 3rd hour would have been spent perfecting things that didn't need perfecting, double-checking things that were already fine, or simply working slowly because you knew you had time. This isn't about rushing sloppily. It's about recognizing that time abundance often leads to wasted time. We fill time with low-value activity, overthinking, unnecessary research, excessive polish, perfectionism, distraction, because the time is available. Constraint forces us to identify and execute on what actually matters. The practical application is simple but powerful. Set shorter deadlines than you think you need. If you estimate something will take 2 weeks, give yourself 1 week. If you think you need 2 hours, give yourself 90 minutes. Create artificial scarcity. Force yourself into the focused, efficient mode that deadlines induce. This requires honesty about your patterns. Track how long tasks actually take versus how long you allocated. You'll likely discover that you consistently overestimate. That full-day project gets done in 4 focused hours when you have to catch an afternoon flight. That week-long task gets completed in 3 intense days when something urgent suddenly demands your attention. You're not bad at estimation. You're experiencing Parkinson's Law. Your work expands. Once you recognize this pattern, you can compensate. Cut your initial time estimates by 30 to 50%. See what happens. Often, you'll meet the shorter deadline. The work doesn't suffer. You just eliminate the fluff that time abundance created. Some worry that shorter deadlines increase stress. In reality, the opposite often happens. Generous deadlines create low-grade stress that persists for days. I need to work on that project, but not quite yet. The task looms. You feel guilty when you're not working on it. You feel pressured when you are working on it because you know you're moving slowly. The long timeline creates prolonged discomfort. Shorter deadlines create intense but brief pressure. You focus hard, you get it done, then it's over. The stress is contained. Yes, the pressure is higher during work, but it's limited in duration, and the relief of completion comes sooner. Most people find focused intensity, followed by completion, less stressful than extended low-pressure drifting. Parkinson's Law also explains why some people are more productive under pressure. They're not masochists. They're not addicted to stress. They've just discovered that deadline pressure eliminates the time-wasting behaviors that plague them otherwise. The pressure is clarifying. It cuts through ambiguity and indecision. It forces action. You can harness this without waiting for real crises. Create artificial deadlines. Tell someone you'll deliver by a specific date. Schedule a meeting where you'll present your work. Create accountability. Book something right after your work block so you must finish. Make your deadlines real, not just suggestions to yourself that you'll ignore when convenient. Batch processing work also leverages Parkinson's law. Instead of responding to emails throughout the day, which can expand to fill unlimited time, you process all email in 2 30-minute blocks. The constraint forces efficiency. You read and respond quickly. You don't agonize over wording. You don't get sucked into tangents. 30 minutes is enough because you've made it enough. The same applies to meetings. If your standard meeting length is 1 hour, try making them 45 or 30 minutes. You'll be amazed how much can fit into a shorter container when everyone knows time is limited. Meetings become crisper, discussions stay focused, decisions happen faster. For creative work, Parkinson's law might seem counterintuitive. Doesn't creativity need space and time? Yes and no. Unlimited time doesn't produce unlimited creativity. It often produces unlimited overthinking and second-guessing. Constraints, including time constraints, can enhance creativity by forcing decisions. You don't have time to endlessly debate options. You choose and move forward. This momentum often yields better results than paralyzed perfectionism. Writers experience this. Give yourself all day to write 500 words, and you'll struggle. You'll stare at the screen. You'll edit as you go. You'll get distracted. But give yourself 30 minutes, and the words flow. You don't have time for self-doubt. You write. Often the rushed version is better, more natural, less overthought. Setting shorter deadlines also reveals priority. When you have generous time, everything feels important. When time is scarce, you're forced to decide what actually matters, what can be cut, what's truly essential. This clarity is valuable. It prevents you from doing unnecessary work simply because you have time. One caveat: shorter deadlines work best for tasks you understand reasonably well. For genuinely novel, complex work where you're learning as you go, aggressive time constraints can backfire. You need some exploration time. But even here, Parkinson's law applies. You still need constraints, just more reasonable ones. Don't give yourself 6 months when 6 weeks would suffice. You'll need to calibrate. Start by cutting your deadlines by 25%. See how that goes. If you're consistently meeting or beating deadlines, cut more. If you're consistently missing them and quality is suffering, you've gone too far. Find your edge, the point where time pressure enhances focus without inducing destructive stress. Parkinson's law also applies to life decisions. Give yourself 2 years to figure out your career, and you'll spend 2 years. Give yourself 3 months, and you'll make decisions faster. Neither timeline guarantees the right decision, but the shorter timeline forces action. And action, even imperfect action, often teaches more than extended contemplation. The principle interacts beautifully with other productivity concepts. The 12-week year leverages Parkinson's law by compressing annual goals into quarters. The Pomodoro technique uses it by constraining work to 25-minute blocks. Eat the frog benefits from it by tackling hard tasks early, when time until interruption is limited. The underlying insight is that time scarcity is focusing. It strips away the non-essential. It eliminates procrastination. It forces prioritization. It demands efficiency. These aren't bad things. They're good things. They're how you get your best work done. The goal isn't to live in constant time pressure, but to use strategic time constraints to harness your capability. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, think about your current timeline expectations. What are you working on? How much time have you allocated? Could you cut that time in half and still succeed? What would you have to eliminate or streamline? What would become clearer? Tomorrow, you could experiment. Pick one task, cut your expected time, see what happens. You might discover you're more capable than your generous timelines suggested. Sleep well, knowing that sometimes less time produces more results. Constraint clarifies, scarcity focuses, deadlines deliver. 80-20 rule: 20% of activities produce 80% of results. There's a pattern that appears everywhere once you start looking for it. A small portion of inputs produces a large portion of outputs. 20% of your clothes get worn 80% of the time. 20% of customers generate 80% of revenue. 20% of roads carry 80% of traffic. 20% of employees create 80% of value. The numbers aren't always exactly 80-20, but the principle holds. Most results come from a minority of causes. This is the Pareto principle, named after Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, who noticed that 80% of land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. The same distribution appeared in his garden. 20% of his pea pods produced 80% of the peas. He began seeing this pattern everywhere, and so will you once you're aware of it. For productivity and effectiveness, this principle is transformative. It means most of what you do doesn't matter much. A small fraction of your activities produces most of your results. If you can identify that vital 20% and focus there, you can dramatically increase your effectiveness without working more. In fact, you might work less. Think about your typical week. You do dozens of different tasks: meetings, emails, projects, administrative work, planning, execution. But if you're honest, only a few of these activities really move your goals forward. Maybe it's the 2 client meetings where you close deals. Maybe it's the 4 hours you spend creating content. Maybe it's the Friday planning session where you set direction. That's your 20%. Everything else, the other 80% of activities, produces only 20% of your results. The math is striking. If you could eliminate or delegate the low-value 80% and double down on the high-value 20%, you could theoretically get the same results in a fraction of the time. Or you could keep working the same hours but on high-value activities and multiply your results. This isn't hypothetical. This is how top performers operate. They've identified their 20% and protect it fiercely. Identifying your 20% requires analysis. Look at your recent accomplishments. What activities led to those results? Look at your goals. What actions most directly advance them? Look at where you create unique value. What do you do that produces outsized returns? These are your high-leverage activities. These are your 20%. For a salesperson, the 20% might be face-to-face client meetings. That's where deals close. Everything else, email, paperwork, internal meetings, is supporting activity. It might be necessary, but it's not where the magic happens. If this salesperson could arrange more client meetings and less everything else, results would improve. For a writer, the 20% is writing. Not research, not planning, not networking, not tweeting about writing. Actual writing. Words on page. Everything else might feel productive, but it doesn't directly produce the work. A writer who writes 4 hours daily will accomplish far more than one who spends 8 hours working on their writing through various adjacent activities. For a leader, the 20% might be recruiting great people and setting clear direction. Hire well and give clear goals, and the organization largely runs itself. Spend time on those activities. Everything else, meetings, status updates, low-level decisions, is lower leverage. Strong leaders delegate aggressively so they can focus on their vital 20%. The challenge is that the 80% can feel urgent and necessary. Email demands responses. Meetings appear on your calendar. Administrative tasks accumulate. These things create immediate pressure. The 20%, by contrast, often isn't urgent. Writing your book doesn't scream at you. Strategic thinking doesn't send notifications. Deep client relationship building doesn't have a deadline. So the 80% crowds out the 20% day after day. This is why awareness isn't enough. You must actively protect your 20%. Schedule it. Block time for it. Treat it as non-negotiable. This might mean saying no to meetings. It might mean delegating tasks that feel important but aren't actually high leverage for you. It might mean letting some things go undone. The 80% won't protect itself. You must choose the 20% over the 80%, repeatedly, deliberately. One powerful exercise: track your time for a week. Note every activity and roughly how long it took. At week's end, review. For each activity, honestly assess: Did this directly advance my most important goals? Did this create significant value? Or was this busy work, obligation, or low-impact activity? You'll likely find that most of your time went to low-value activities. This is normal. It's also changeable. Next, ask, what would happen if I didn't do this activity? For many items, the answer is nothing bad. The task doesn't actually need doing, or it could be done by someone else, or it could be done much less frequently. These are candidates for elimination or delegation. Clear them away to create space for your 20%. Also ask, what activities, if I did more of them, would dramatically improve my results? These are your 20%. They're probably getting too little time because lower value activities are filling your days. Your goal is to reverse this. Increase time on the vital few. Decrease time on the trivial many. The Pareto principle also applies within activities. If you're a writer, 20% of your writing might produce 80% of your reader engagement. Which pieces resonate most? Write more of those. 20% of your networking might produce 80% of your valuable connections. Who are the key relationships? Invest more there. 20% of your products might generate 80% of your profit. Focus your energy accordingly. This can feel ruthless. You're essentially saying most of what you do doesn't matter much. That's uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be good at everything. You just need to identify and maximize your highest leverage activities. Everything else can be minimized, delegated, or eliminated. The principle challenges common productivity advice. More hours doesn't mean more results if those hours go to low leverage activities. Multitasking doesn't help if you're fragmenting your attention across 80% activities. Better time management doesn't matter if you're efficiently doing the wrong things. The Pareto principle says, do less, but do the right things. In relationships, 20% of your connections might provide 80% of your support, joy, and growth. These are your vital relationships. They deserve most of your relational energy. Other connections might be pleasant, but not transformative. They don't need the same investment. This isn't about being cold. It's about being intentional with finite relational energy. For learning, 20% of concepts might explain 80% of a field. Find that core 20%. Master it deeply. You don't need to know everything. You need to know the foundational principles that unlock understanding. This approach to learning is much more efficient than trying to absorb everything equally. The 80-20 principle also reveals that not all effort is equal. An hour on a 20% activity is worth 4 or 5 hours on an 80% activity in terms of results. This changes how you think about your day. Instead of trying to fill every hour with activity, you focus on filling hours with high leverage activity. Quality of time over quantity. Applying this principle requires courage to let go. Some tasks won't get done. Some opportunities won't be pursued. Some people won't be pleased. But this is the trade-off for effectiveness. You can do everything poorly and feel exhausted, or you can do the vital 20% excellently and get better results with less stress. The choice is yours. Regularly revisit your 20%. It changes over time. As you grow, as situations evolve, as goals shift, what constitutes your highest leverage activities changes too. Monthly or quarterly, reassess. Am I still focusing on my true 20%, or have new 80% activities crept in? Course correct as needed. Tonight, as you wind down, reflect on your current activities. What produces most of your results? What if you did more of it, would change everything? That's your 20%. Tomorrow, you could protect it better. You could say no to more 80% activities. You could invest your best time and energy where it matters most. Not everything matters equally. Focus on the vital few. Sleep well, knowing that less can be more when it's the right less. ABCDE method. Rank tasks A to E by importance and do them in order. Decision-making drains energy. Every time you look at your to-do list and wonder, what should I do next? You're spending mental resources on prioritization. This happens dozens of times per day for most people. Each decision point creates friction and delay. The ABCDE method eliminates this constant reprioritization by making the decision once at the start. The system is elegantly simple. You take your task list and assign each item a letter based on importance. A tasks are critical, serious consequences if not done. B tasks are important, some consequences if not done, but not severe. C tasks are nice to do, no real consequences if not done. D tasks should be delegated to someone else. E tasks should be eliminated entirely, they don't need doing at all. Once everything is labeled, you work through your list in order. All A tasks before any B tasks. All B tasks before any C tasks. You never do a C task while an A task remains incomplete. This simple rule removes ambiguity. At any moment, you know what you should be working on. No debate, no internal negotiation, just follow the system. The power of this method comes from forcing honest assessment. When you must label each task, you can't pretend everything is equally important. You must decide. This task that's been sitting on your list for weeks, is it really important? Or is it a C that you can safely ignore? That meeting invitation, is attendance truly necessary? Or can you decline? The ABCDE method makes you confront these questions explicitly. Consider what qualifies as an A task. These are tasks with serious consequences for non-completion, missing a critical deadline, failing to address a genuine emergency, neglecting something that directly impacts your job security, important relationships, or health. Tasks are non-negotiable. They must get done. If you have multiple A tasks, you rank them A1, A2, A3, and do them in that order. Most people discover they have fewer genuine A tasks than they thought. Much of what feels urgent isn't actually critical. It's just loud. It demands attention. But honest evaluation reveals it's really a B or even a C. This realization is freeing. You don't have to treat everything like an emergency. You can breathe. You can focus on what genuinely matters. B tasks are legitimately important, but lack the severe consequences of A tasks. Completing that project proposal matters, but the world won't end if it takes another day. Following up with that potential client is valuable, but it's not make or break today. B tasks deserve attention after your A tasks are handled. They're real work, just second-tier priority. C tasks are the seductive ones. They're often easy and satisfying to complete. Organizing your desk, color-coding your files, researching tangentially related topics. These tasks feel productive. You're doing something, but they don't move your goals forward significantly. They're the junk food of productivity, satisfying in the moment, empty of nutrition. The ABCDE method says, never do a C task while a B task remains, and never do a B task while an A task remains. This is hard. C tasks are tempting precisely because they're easy. Your brain craves the dopamine hit of completion. Checking off 3 C tasks feels better than struggling with one difficult A task, but it's false progress. You're busy, not effective. D tasks should be delegated. You might be capable of doing them, but they're not the best use of your time. Someone else could do them as well, or better. Or they're necessary, but don't require your specific skills. Administrative work often falls here. So do tasks outside your expertise, where hiring someone makes sense. The key question, is this task worth your hourly value, or should someone else do it? Many people resist delegation. It's faster to do it myself. Nobody can do it as well as I can. I don't have anyone to delegate to. These objections keep you trapped doing D work instead of A work. But consider, every hour you spend on D tasks is an hour not spent on A tasks. What's the opportunity cost? Usually, it's enormous. E tasks should be eliminated entirely. These are activities you've been doing out of habit, obligation, or unclear thinking. They don't actually need doing. Nobody benefits from them. They're legacy commitments or misguided obligations. The ABCDE method gives you permission to cross them off entirely. Just delete them. This feels radical, but liberating. Identifying E tasks requires honesty. That weekly meeting you attend but never contribute to, Eliminate it. That report you produce that nobody reads, stop producing it. That social obligation you dread and get nothing from, decline it. Life is too short for e-tasks. They waste your finite time and energy on activities that create zero value. Implementing the ABCDE method starts with your current task list. Go through each item. Assign a letter. Be ruthless. If you can't identify serious consequences for not doing something, it's not an A. If you're not sure whether something matters, it's probably a C. When in doubt, rank it lower. You can always reevaluate. After labeling everything, you might discover you have 10 A tasks. This suggests a problem. Either your criteria for A tasks are too loose, or you're genuinely overwhelmed with critical work. If it's the former, reevaluate. Make a truly mean critical. If it's the latter, you need help. You can't do 10 critical things simultaneously. Prioritize the A's into A1, A2, A3, or delegate some, or negotiate deadlines. But acknowledge the problem. Most people find they have 2 or 3 genuine A tasks, several B tasks, many C tasks, and a few candidates for D or E. This is healthy. It means you have clear priorities and can focus. Your goal each day is simple. Complete all A tasks. If you finish those and still have time, move to B tasks. Rarely will you get to C tasks, and that's fine. C tasks not getting done is the system working correctly. The method also helps with daily planning. Each morning or the night before, you review your list. You identify today's A tasks. Everything else is context. You might glance at B tasks to be aware of them, but your focus is the A's. This creates clarity. You know what success looks like for today. Complete the A tasks. Done. One challenge is distinguishing between urgent and important. The ABCDE method prioritizes important. Something can be urgent. People are asking about it. A deadline looms. But still be a B or C if consequences for non-completion aren't severe. Conversely, something can be non-urgent but still an A because it has major long-term consequences. Strategic planning often falls here. Nobody is asking for it today, but neglecting it creates serious problems. The method also exposes misplaced effort. If you're constantly busy but not completing your A tasks, something is wrong. Either you're avoiding the A's because they're difficult, or your schedule is too fragmented, or you're saying yes to too many commitments. The ABCDE method doesn't just help you prioritize. It reveals where your system is broken so you can fix it. Regularly reviewing your E tasks is particularly valuable. What are you doing that shouldn't be done at all? This question challenges assumptions. We've always done it this way isn't a reason to continue. I committed to this 6 months ago doesn't mean you must continue if it's no longer valuable. Permission to eliminate is powerful. It creates space for what matters. The ABCDE method works for different timescales. You can ABCDE your daily tasks, your weekly projects, your monthly goals, your life priorities, the principal scales. Always do the most important things first. Never let the less important crowd out the more important. This sounds obvious, but most people violate it constantly. For some, the rigid hierarchy feels uncomfortable. What if I'm not in the mood for my A task? The method's answer is clear. Mood is irrelevant. If it's an A, you do it. This is discipline. You don't wait for motivation. You don't negotiate with yourself. You've already decided it's critical. Now you execute. This removes the exhausting internal debate about what to work on. Over time, the ABCDE method trains better judgment. You get better at assessing importance. You become more realistic about consequences. You develop the courage to eliminate and delegate. You build the discipline to focus on A's even when C's are more appealing. These skills compound. You become increasingly effective at directing your energy where it matters most. The method also clarifies communication with others. When someone asks you to do something, you can mentally categorize it. Is this an A for them, but a C for me? Can I delegate this D? Should I decline this E? You're not being unhelpful. You're being strategic about where you can genuinely add value versus where you'd just be going through motions. Tonight, Before sleep, you could mentally categorize your current commitments. What's truly an A? What's honestly a C masquerading as more important? What could be eliminated entirely? Tomorrow you could start fresh with clear prioritization. No more wondering what to work on. No more letting easy tasks crowd out important ones. Just A tasks, B tasks, C tasks, in order. Simple, clear, effective. Sleep knowing that clarity about priority is half the battle. The ABCDE method provides that clarity. Use it well. Time auditing. Track how you spend time to find inefficiencies. You probably have some idea of how you spend your time. You work. You handle emails. You attend meetings. You take care of personal tasks. But if someone asked you to account for every hour of last week, could you? Most people can't. We have a vague sense of busyness, but little concrete knowledge of where time actually goes. This ignorance is costly. You can't improve what you don't measure. Time auditing means tracking your time with the same attention you track money. For a period, typically 1 or 2 weeks, you record what you do and how long it takes. Not from memory at day's end, but in real time or close to it. Every task, every activity, every distraction. The goal isn't judgment, it's data. You're becoming a scientist studying your own behavior. The process is simple but revealing. Set a timer or use time tracking software. When you start an activity, note it. When you finish or switch to something else, note the time. Email, 25 minutes. Meeting, 1 hour. Project work, 40 minutes. Social media, 15 minutes. Thinking and planning, 30 minutes. Everything gets recorded. At first, this feels tedious. Constantly noting activities interrupts your flow, but persist. The interruption is temporary. The insight is lasting. After a week or two, you'll have data showing exactly how you spend your time. This data will surprise you. Almost everyone discovers major gaps between how they think they spend time and how they actually spend it. You might believe you spend 3 hours daily on focused work. The audit reveals it's actually 90 minutes fragmented across the day. You might think you check email 3 times daily for 15 minutes each. The audit shows you check it 20 times, accumulating 2 hours. You might feel meetings consume your day. The audit might show meetings are actually manageable, but you waste energy before and after them, destroying focus time. These revelations are uncomfortable but valuable. They explain why you feel busy but accomplish less than expected. They show where time leaks. They reveal patterns you weren't aware of. This awareness creates opportunity for change. Without the audit, you're flying blind, making vague commitments to waste less time, without knowing where the waste is. With the audit, you have targets. Common discoveries from time audits include massive time spent on email. People often underestimate this by 50% or more. What feels like 30 minutes is actually an hour. What seems like checking occasionally is actually constant monitoring. Email is insidious because each check feels quick, but they accumulate. 23-minute checks equal 1 hour, feeling like nothing but consuming substantial time. Another common finding is context switching cost. You might think you work on a project for 2 hours, but the audit shows you started and stopped 6 times, with email checks, quick messages, phone scrolls, and other interruptions between. The gross time is 2 hours, but the actual focus time is perhaps 45 minutes. The rest is transition cost, reorienting, recovering focus. This fragmentation destroys productivity. Social media and phone use often shock people. A quick check feels like 2 minutes but often runs 10. These checks happen more frequently than imagined. The audit might reveal you're spending 90 minutes daily on social media when you thought it was 30. That's 7.5 hours weekly, nearly a full workday, on scrolling. Whether that's worthwhile is your decision, but at least now you know the true cost. Time audits also reveal activities that seemed necessary but aren't. That weekly meeting you attend might consume an hour, including prep and recovery time. Over a year, that's 52 hours, more than a work week. Is it worth a work week of your time annually? Maybe yes, maybe no. but you couldn't evaluate that without knowing the true cost. The audit shows where you're most productive. Maybe you accomplish more in focused morning hours than scattered afternoon ones. Maybe uninterrupted blocks yield far more than equivalent fragmented time. Maybe certain types of tasks pair well. Creative work after exercise, for instance, while others don't. These patterns suggest how to structure your days better. Energy tracking enhances time tracking. Note not just what you did and how long, but how you felt. Alert or tired, focused or distracted, energized or drained. This reveals when you're working with or against your natural rhythms. You might discover you're scheduling difficult work during low-energy windows, guaranteeing struggle, while using high-energy windows for low-value tasks. Some resist time tracking because it feels controlling or joyless. I don't want to measure every minute of my life. That's fair. This isn't about permanent surveillance. It's a diagnostic tool. You track for a week or two, gain insight, make changes, then stop. Or you track periodically, maybe 1 week per quarter, to ensure you haven't drifted back into inefficiency. The tracking itself isn't the goal. The insight and improvement are. After collecting data, analyze it. Categorize your activities. How much time goes to focused work, to communication, to meetings, to administrative tasks, to rest and restoration, to waste? Which categories are too large or too small? Where's the misalignment between your values and your time use? Look for patterns. When do you do your best work? What precedes productive periods? What follows them? When do you waste time? What triggers that? Is procrastination random, or does it happen predictably in certain contexts? The patterns reveal leverage points for change. Based on your findings, make specific changes. If email consumes too much time, implement batching. 2 scheduled blocks instead of constant checking. If meetings fragment your days, push for fewer meetings or cluster them on specific days. If social media drains hours, delete apps or use blockers during work time. If context switching costs are high, create longer uninterrupted work blocks. Then, after implementing changes, audit again. Did your interventions work? Is time distribution better aligned with goals? New inefficiencies might have emerged. Maybe batching email created other problems. Maybe meeting-free days are working beautifully. The second audit tells you this creates a cycle of continuous improvement. Time auditing also clarifies priorities through revealed preference. You might say writing is your top priority, but the audit shows you spent 2 hours writing this week and 10 hours on social media. This gap between stated and revealed priorities is information. Either social media is actually more important to you than you admit, or you have a behavior problem to solve. Either way, the data surfaces truth. The audit can reveal capacity for new commitments. Someone asks you to join a committee. Before automatically saying yes or no, check your audit. Where would this time come from? What would you give up? Is that a trade you want to make? The audit makes opportunity cost concrete instead of abstract. For teams, time audits can diagnose organizational problems. If everyone spends 30 hours weekly in meetings, that's a meeting culture problem. If everyone reports constant interruptions, that's a communication norms problem. If focused work time is rare, that's a structural issue requiring organizational change, not just individual adjustment. Some people discover their time use is actually pretty good. They're spending time roughly as they intend, aligned with their values and goals. That's valuable to know too. It provides confidence. It says, keep doing what you're doing. The sense of being overwhelmed might come from factors other than time management. Maybe unrealistic expectations or external pressures rather than personal inefficiency. For others, the audit is a wake-up call. The gap between intention and reality is vast. Hours disappear into activities that don't matter. Important work gets neglected. The audit provides the motivation and specific targets needed for change. It's hard to ignore data showing you spent 40 hours last month on activities you claim to value 0. Time auditing also helps with time estimation. After tracking, you know how long tasks actually take. You stop underestimating and overcommitting. You can plan more realistically. You build buffers for inevitable interruptions, because you've seen in data how often they occur. Your planning becomes grounded in reality instead of optimism. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, consider starting a time audit tomorrow. Just 1 week. Track everything. No judgment, just data. See where your time goes. The investment is small, maybe 5 minutes daily to record activities. The return is clarity about one of your most precious resources. You might discover you have more time than you thought, just poorly allocated. Or you might confirm that you're genuinely overcommitted and need to say no to things. Either way, you'll know. And knowing is the first step to changing. Sleep well. Tomorrow you begin measuring what matters. Don't break the chain. Mark daily habit. Completions on a calendar maintain the streak. There's a simple technique that comedian Jerry Seinfeld reportedly used to become a better comic. Each day he wrote jokes. He marked a big red X on his wall calendar. After a few days, he had a chain of X's. His only job was to not break the chain. Write jokes every day. Mark an X. Watch the chain grow. The visual feedback and the desire to maintain the streak provided powerful motivation. This is the don't break the chain method, and it works because it leverages psychology beautifully. The chain becomes something valuable in itself. You're no longer just doing the habit, you're maintaining your streak. Each day you continue, the streak becomes more precious. The longer the chain, the more you want to protect it. Breaking it after 10 days is unfortunate. Breaking it after 100 days feels tragic. The method works for building any daily habit. Writing, exercise, practice, meditation, learning, cold calls, creative work. Anything you want to do consistently benefits from chain tracking. The requirement is simple. The habit must be daily, and the criteria for completing it must be clear. You can't track vague intentions. You need binary outcomes. Did you do it today? Yes or no? Setting up the system takes minutes. Get a wall calendar that shows the whole year, or use a habit tracking app, or draw a simple grid. Each day you complete your habit, you mark it. An X, a check mark, a colored square, the symbol doesn't matter. What matters is the visual representation of consistency. You can see at a glance how you're doing. The chain of completed days grows, creating visible progress. The psychological mechanisms at work are several. First, there's immediate feedback. You don't wait until month's end to evaluate whether you're being consistent. Every day, you know. You either kept the chain going or you didn't. This tight feedback loop keeps the goal salient. It's never far from awareness. Second, there's loss aversion. Humans hate losing things more than we enjoy gaining equivalent things. Once you have a chain of 30 days, breaking it feels like a loss. The prospect of losing your streak motivates you to continue even on days when motivation is low. You're not just starting the habit, you're protecting something you've built. Third, there's identity reinforcement. As your chain grows, you start identifying as someone who does this thing. I'm a person with a 90-day writing streak. This identity shift supports continued behavior. You act consistently with your identity. Breaking the chain would contradict who you've become. Fourth, there's gamification. The chain turns habit building into a game with a simple score. Current streak length. Games are engaging. They activate our competitive and achievement instincts. Even though you're competing only with yourself, the game elements make the process more enjoyable than pure discipline alone. The method's simplicity is deceptive. It seems too easy to work. But simplicity is precisely why it works. You don't need elaborate tracking, complex rewards, or detailed planning. You just need to do the thing daily and mark it. This removes friction. The habit becomes straightforward. No ambiguity, no complexity, just daily action and daily marking. Choosing what to chain track requires thought. The habit should be important to you, something that, done consistently, would meaningfully improve your life. It should also be genuinely achievable daily. If your habit requires 2 hours, but you have many days when 2 hours isn't available, you're setting yourself up to break the chain. Better to choose something sustainable. 15 minutes daily of a good habit beats 2 hours that happens only occasionally. Some people worry about making the habit too easy. Won't that prevent real progress? Not necessarily. The goal is consistency first, intensity second. Better to write for 15 minutes every single day than to plan for 2-hour sessions that happen twice weekly. Daily repetition builds the habit deeply. Once the habit is established, once it's truly automatic, you can increase intensity. But establishing the chain comes first. What if you miss a day? Life happens. You get sick. You travel. A genuine emergency occurs. The purest approach says, start over from day one. This maintains the integrity of the chain, but can feel punishing. An alternative is the 2-day rule. You're allowed to miss 1 day without breaking the chain, but you can never miss 2 consecutive days. This provides flexibility for reality while maintaining the streak's motivational power. Another approach is to build in planned breaks. Maybe you commit to 6 days per week, with 1 flex day. You still track daily, but you're aiming for 6 marks per week, not 7. This works well for physically demanding habits like exercise, where rest days are important. The key is deciding your standard in advance and sticking to it. Multiple chains can run simultaneously, but be cautious. Tracking 5 habits simultaneously is much harder than tracking 1. Start with 1 habit that matters most. Once that's firmly established, perhaps after 90 days or more, consider adding a second. But don't diffuse your focus trying to build too many chains at once. Success with 1 habit beats failure with 5. The visibility of the chain matters. If your calendar is hidden in a drawer, you'll forget to mark it and forget about the habit. Put it somewhere you see multiple times daily. Bathroom mirror, beside your bed, on your desk, in your kitchen. The frequent visibility serves as both reminder and reinforcement. You see your growing chain and feel motivated to continue it. Some people enhance the system with color coding or additional tracking. Different colors for different types of days. Blue for days you exceeded your minimum. Green for days you just met it. Yellow for days you struggled but pushed through. Or tracking not just binary completion but some intensity measure. These enhancements can add value, but be careful not to make the system so complex that maintenance becomes a burden. The method works particularly well for creative habits. Writing, drawing, music practice, skill development. These benefit enormously from daily repetition. Even small amounts daily compound into substantial progress. A writer who writes just 300 words daily produces a novel-length manuscript in a year. The chain system makes that daily practice more likely to happen. It also works for habits that prevent problems. Flossing teeth, taking medication, backing up important files. These habits lack immediate gratification. Nothing good happens today from flossing, but prevent future problems. The chain provides the motivation that natural consequences don't offer in the moment. The method is less suitable for outcomes you don't directly control. You can't chain track, make a sale, because sales depend partially on factors outside your control. But you can chain track, make 5 prospecting calls, which you do control. Focus the chain on behaviors, not results. Results will follow from consistent behavior, but you track what's in your control. Some habits naturally build streaks even without explicit tracking. Once you establish a morning routine, the routine itself becomes the chain. You don't need to mark days you did your routine. The routine is self-reinforcing. But explicit chain tracking is valuable during habit formation, when the behavior isn't yet automatic. The tracking bridges the gap between intention and automation. Long chains create interesting dynamics. After 6 months, your chain is so valuable that you'll do remarkable things to protect it. You'll wake early on vacation to maintain your writing chain. You'll exercise in hotel rooms to maintain your fitness chain. You'll find creative solutions to maintain your streak despite obstacles. This commitment is powerful. It overrides momentary resistance and makes you resourceful. Eventually, if you maintain a habit long enough through chain tracking, the behavior becomes truly automatic. You no longer need the chain for motivation. You do the habit because it's simply what you do. like brushing your teeth. At that point, you can stop tracking if you want. The chain served its purpose, establishing the behavior. Mission accomplished. Or you might continue tracking because you enjoy it. There's satisfaction in maintaining a very long chain. People keep Duolingo streaks going for years, long after language learning became habitual. The streak itself brings joy. That's fine. The method serves you as long as it's useful. Tonight, as you rest, consider what habit would most benefit your life if you did it daily. What one behavior, performed consistently, would change your trajectory? Tomorrow, you could start your chain. Day 1. 1x on a calendar. Small, insignificant. But it's the beginning. Every long chain started with a single mark. Your job is simple. Don't break the chain. Sleep well. Tomorrow, you begin building something valuable, one day at a time. Energy management. Prioritize sleep, exercise, and breaks. Energy over time management. There's a fundamental mistake most productivity advice makes. It assumes you have constant capacity throughout the day. It treats your hours as uniform containers that can be filled with tasks. Do more. Optimize your schedule. Manage your time better. But time management misses something crucial. You're not a machine with constant output. You're a biological system with variable energy. 2 hours when you're well rested, energized, and focused produce vastly more and better work than 2 hours when you're exhausted, scattered, and depleted. The time is identical, the energy is different, and energy is what actually matters. This is why energy management is more important than time management. You can optimize your schedule perfectly, but if you're running on empty, your productivity will be terrible. Energy management starts with the fundamentals: sleep, exercise, and breaks. These aren't luxuries you fit in after work. They're not rewards for productivity. They're the foundation that makes productivity possible. Without them, everything else collapses. With them, everything else becomes easier. Sleep is the most important and most neglected element. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours nightly. Not 5, not 6, 7 to 9. Actual sleep, not time in bed. When you're sleep deprived, everything suffers. Your focus fragments, your memory weakens, your emotional regulation fails, your decision-making degrades, your creativity diminishes, your willpower depletes faster. You're essentially trying to function with reduced cognitive capacity. The research is unequivocal. Sleep deprivation impairs you similarly to intoxication. After 17 hours awake, your performance matches someone with a blood alcohol level of 0.05%, legally drunk in many places. Yet people routinely operate on insufficient sleep and wonder why they struggle. You're not lazy or incapable. You're impaired. Your brain needs sleep to function. Sleep also isn't just about duration. Quality matters. 7 hours of interrupted, poor quality sleep doesn't equal 7 hours of deep, restorative sleep. This means protecting sleep hygiene, regular sleep schedule, cool, dark room, no screens before bed, limited caffeine and alcohol. These aren't perfectionist details. They're practical necessities for the sleep quality your brain needs. Some people resist prioritizing sleep. I don't have time to sleep more. I have too much to do. This is backwards. Sleep deprivation makes you less productive, not more. The extra hours you gain by sleeping less are filled with impaired cognition. You work longer to achieve less. You make mistakes requiring correction. You miss insights. You struggle with tasks that would be easy when rested. The math doesn't work. Sleep is not time wasted. It's productivity amplified. Exercise is the second pillar of energy management. Regular physical activity improves every dimension of performance. It enhances focus and cognitive function. It regulates mood and reduces anxiety. It increases energy levels and stress resilience. It improves sleep quality. It boosts confidence and self-efficacy. The benefits are so comprehensive that if exercise were a drug, it would be the best-selling drug in history. You don't need extreme exercise. 30 minutes of moderate activity most days provides massive benefits. Walking, swimming, cycling, strength training, yoga. Choose something you enjoy or at least tolerate. The best exercise is the one you'll actually do consistently. Consistency matters far more than intensity. Many people view exercise as time away from productive work. Again, backwards. Exercise creates energy and cognitive capacity. That 30-minute walk produces an hour or more of improved focus and mood. The return on investment is positive. You lose 30 minutes to exercise and gain 60 minutes of enhanced capability. This is efficient, not wasteful. The timing of exercise matters for energy management. Morning exercise energizes your day. It's an investment in your cognitive capacity for the hours ahead. Midday exercise breaks up the day and prevents afternoon energy slumps. Evening exercise helps transition from work mode to rest mode. Experiment to find what works for your body and schedule, then protect that time. Breaks are the third pillar. You cannot maintain focus and energy for 8 straight hours. Your brain isn't designed for sustained attention without rest. Trying to power through creates diminishing returns. The 8th hour of continuous work produces far less than the first hour, even though both consume the same time. Taking breaks isn't laziness, it's maintenance. The optimal break pattern varies by person, but research suggests patterns like 50 minutes work, 10 minutes break, or 90 minutes work, 15 minutes break. The key is actually stopping. Not checking email while you walk around, not scrolling social media, actual rest. Looking away from screens, moving your body, letting your mind wander. This allows recovery so the next work block starts fresh. Breaks serve multiple functions. They prevent cognitive fatigue. They allow subconscious processing of problems. They reduce physical strain from sitting or screen time. They provide opportunities for perspective, stepping back from details to see the bigger picture. Regular breaks make extended focus possible. Without them, you can maintain intense focus for perhaps an hour before degradation sets in. With them, you can sustain productivity across a full day. The break doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes helps. Stand up, stretch, look out a window, breathe deeply. These micro breaks reset your attention and relieve physical tension. Longer breaks, 15 to 30 minutes, allow more complete recovery. A walk outside, a brief nap, a proper meal. These recharge you substantially. Many high performers incorporate strategic rest into their days. Churchill took afternoon naps. Einstein took regular walks. They understood that rest wasn't opposed to productivity. It was essential to it. They didn't rest because they had finished their work. They rested so they could do their work well. Rest is part of the work, not separate from it. Beyond these 3 pillars, sleep, exercise, breaks, energy management includes nutrition. Your brain consumes about 20% of your caloric intake, despite being only 2% of body weight. What you eat affects cognitive function. Stable blood sugar from regular balanced meals sustains energy. Dehydration impairs concentration. Excessive caffeine creates spikes and crashes. Nutrition isn't a side issue. It's fundamental to mental performance. Energy management also means knowing your personal rhythms. Some people are morning people, some are evening people. This isn't a choice or habit, it's biology. Working with your natural rhythms instead of against them dramatically improves effectiveness. If your brain works best at 10 in the evening, structure your life to leverage that if possible. Fighting your biology is exhausting and inefficient. Similarly, energy varies across the week. Many people have more energy Monday and Tuesday, a slump Wednesday, recovery Thursday, and mixed energy Friday. Knowing your patterns allows strategic planning. Schedule demanding work during high energy times. Save routine tasks for low energy periods. This alignment multiplies effectiveness. Emotional energy is also real. Some activities drain you emotionally, even if not physically demanding. Difficult conversations, tedious administrative work, high-stakes presentations. These require recovery time. Other activities energize you, even though they're objectively work. Creative projects you love. collaboration with inspiring people, learning something fascinating. These build energy rather than deplete it. Managing energy means balancing draining and energizing activities. You can't eliminate energy-draining work. Some is necessary, but you can intersperse it with energizing work. You can follow a difficult task with a rejuvenating break. You can end your day with something that leaves you feeling good rather than depleted. These choices shape your overall energy levels. Environment affects energy too. Cluttered, noisy, uncomfortable spaces drain energy. Clean, quiet, comfortable spaces conserve it. Natural light improves mood and alertness. Plants in your space reduce stress. Temperature matters. Too hot or too cold impairs focus. These environmental factors seem minor but compound across hours and days. Social interactions have energy dynamics. Some people energize you. Time with them leaves you feeling more alive, creative, inspired. Other people drain you. Time with them, even brief interactions, leaves you depleted. This isn't about liking or disliking people. It's about energy exchange. Managing your energy means protecting time with energizing people and limiting exposure to draining ones where possible. The biggest barrier to energy management is the productivity culture that valorizes constant work and dismisses rest. Sleep is for the weak. Breaks are for the lazy. Exercise is a luxury. This is toxic nonsense. Elite athletes understand that training and recovery are both essential. Rest enables performance. The same applies to cognitive work. Your brain is part of your body. It needs care. Implementing energy management means making different trade-offs. Instead of working until midnight, you stop at 9 and sleep. Instead of skipping lunch to stay at your desk, you take a break and eat properly. Instead of sitting for 8 hours, you take walking breaks. These choices might feel like sacrifices. You're doing less work, aren't you? No, you're doing better work. The total output over time increases, even though hours decrease. Energy management also requires saying no to energy-draining commitments. That evening meeting that leaves you depleted. That social obligation that feels like a burden. That project that saps your enthusiasm. Protecting your energy means protecting your boundaries. Every yes to something energy draining is a no to something energy building. You'll need to experiment. What restores your energy? What depletes it? Some people recharge through solitude, others through socializing, some through creative work, others through physical activity. There's no universal formula. Pay attention to how you feel after different activities. Adjust based on what you learn about yourself. Over time, energy management becomes intuitive. You feel when you need rest. You recognize when you're pushing past productive into counterproductive. You honor your body's signals instead of overriding them. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that you're a biological system with needs, not a machine with on-off switches. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, recognize that this rest isn't time wasted. It's essential maintenance. It's preparation for tomorrow's energy and effectiveness. Sleep is productive. Rest is work. Recovery is performance. Your most productive move might not be working 1 more hour tonight. It might be sleeping 1 more hour and bringing your best self to tomorrow. Trust in the power of rest. Sleep deeply. Wake energized. Protect your energy as fiercely as you protect your time. That's where real productivity lives. The Zeigarnik effect. Start a task, then take a break. Your subconscious will keep working. There's a curious phenomenon about unfinished tasks. They occupy your mind differently than completed ones. A task you've started but not finished intrudes into your thoughts. It surfaces when you're doing other things. It nags at you. You find yourself thinking about it even when you're not actively working on it. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, and you can use it strategically. The effect is named after Russian psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who observed that waiters remembered incomplete orders better than completed ones. Once an order was delivered and paid for, it left their mind. But orders in progress stayed active in their memory. She researched this phenomenon and found that incomplete tasks create a kind of psychological tension that keeps them accessible in consciousness. Your brain doesn't like open loops. An unfinished task creates cognitive tension, not severe stress, but a gentle pressure. Your subconscious continues processing the problem even when you're consciously focused elsewhere. Ideas surface while you're in the shower, driving, exercising, or falling asleep. This is your subconscious working on the open loop, trying to close it. The strategic application is simple but powerful. Start a task, then take a break before completing it. You're intentionally creating an open loop. During the break, during sleep, during other activities, your subconscious processes the problem. When you return to the task, you often have new insights, fresh perspectives, or solutions to problems that seem stuck. This is different from procrastination. Procrastination means avoiding starting. The Zeigarnik effect means deliberately starting, making progress, then stepping away while your mind continues working. The key is that you've genuinely engaged with the task. You've loaded it into your mental RAM. You've given your brain something to work with. Then you trust the background processing. Writers use this instinctively. Many writers stop mid-sentence at the end of a writing session. Not at the end of a chapter or even the end of a paragraph, but mid-sentence. This feels unnatural. Your instinct is to complete the thought. But stopping mid-sentence creates a powerful open loop. When you sit down tomorrow, you immediately know where you're going. The next words are already forming. Starting is effortless. Compare this to finishing a complete section. Sitting down the next day, you face a blank slate. Where do you begin? What comes next? The barrier to starting is high, but if you stopped mid-sentence, starting is just completing the thought already in progress. The Zeigarnik effect provides momentum. The same principle applies to any complex work. Coding a feature? Stop before you've solved the final bug. Your mind will work on it overnight. Planning a project? Start mapping it out, then take a break before finalizing. Ideas will emerge during the break. Designing something? Begin the process, then step away. Fresh perspectives will arrive. The break is crucial. You're not just pausing for a few minutes, you're genuinely switching contexts, ideally doing something completely different, even sleeping. This allows your unconscious mind to work without interference from your conscious analytical mind. Sometimes our conscious thinking gets stuck in ruts. The subconscious can explore more freely. Sleep is particularly powerful for the Zeigarnik effect. Many people have experienced going to bed stuck on a problem and waking with a solution. This isn't mysterious. Your sleeping brain continues processing. REM sleep especially seems to facilitate creative connections and problem solving. By starting a task before bed, you essentially assign your sleeping mind homework. Some of history's great insights reportedly came through this process. Scientists waking with solutions to problems they'd been wrestling with. Artists dreaming of creative breakthroughs. These weren't random gifts from the muses. They were the Zeigarnik effect in action. The conscious mind loaded the problem. The unconscious mind processed during sleep. The solution emerged upon waking. This explains why sometimes the best move is to stop working on something. You've been at it for hours, making no progress, feeling increasingly frustrated. The conventional wisdom says, push through, work harder, apply more discipline. But sometimes the wisest choice is to stop. Take a walk, sleep on it, do something else. Let the Zeigarnik effect work for you. The effect also explains why starting is often the hardest part. A blank page, an empty canvas, a new project. These feel overwhelming. But once you start, even minimally, something shifts. The loop opens. Your mind engages. Momentum builds. This is why just start is good advice. Even 15 minutes of starting creates the Zeigarnik effect. That task will now occupy your mind until completion. For procrastinators, the Zeigarnik effect is both curse and tool. The curse, tasks you're avoiding still occupy your mind, creating guilt and stress. The undone task nags at you. You can't fully relax because the loop is open. The tool, just starting, even briefly, reduces the avoidance. Once started, the task feels less daunting, and your subconscious begins helping even when you're not actively working. The effect has limits. You can't open too many loops simultaneously. Try to keep 10 complex tasks partially done, and your mind becomes overwhelmed. The background processing becomes noise rather than insight. Be strategic. Open loops on your most important problems. Complete or defer the rest. Quality of open loops matters more than quantity. Also, not all tasks benefit from the Zeigarnik effect. Simple, routine tasks don't need subconscious processing. You don't need to sleep on email responses or grocery shopping. The effect is valuable for complex, creative, or problem-solving work where insight and connection matter. Reserve it for tasks that genuinely benefit from unconscious thought. Some people resist stopping mid-task. It feels wrong. It violates completion instincts. But consider, are you more effective forcing completion when tired and stuck, or stopping, allowing subconscious processing and returning fresh? Usually, the latter produces better results in less total time. The break isn't laziness. It's strategic use of your mind's capabilities. The Zeigarnik effect also suggests when to schedule certain types of work. Big creative or strategic projects benefit from starting them before extended breaks. Start your most important project on Friday afternoon. Do some meaningful work on it, then stop. Your weekend allows extensive subconscious processing. Monday, you return with fresh insights. The weekend wasn't wasted. It was background processing time. Similarly, before vacation, you might start thinking about a major upcoming project. Not working intensely on it, you're about to vacation. Just beginning to engage with it, loading it into your mind. Then vacation, you're relaxing, but somewhere in the background, your mind is making connections. You return with ideas that never would have surfaced without that combination of initial engagement and extended break. The effect explains why some people get their best ideas in the shower. The shower itself isn't magical, but it's a break from focused work after you've been engaging with problems. Your conscious mind relaxes. Water cascades. Your body is occupied with a simple routine. Your subconscious surfaces the insights it's been working on. The shower is just when the conscious mind finally gets out of the way. This suggests designing your schedule to allow breaks after focused work. Not immediately rushing to the next task, but giving some space. A walk after intense morning work. A workout after a challenging session. These breaks aren't interruptions. They're completion space for the Zeigarnik effect to deliver its insights. You can combine the Zeigarnik effect with other principles. Use it with the Pomodoro technique. Work on a complex problem for 25 minutes. Take a 5-minute break where insights surface. Return and iterate. Use it with the daily highlight. Start your most important task in the morning. Work on it substantially but not to completion. Let your mind process throughout the day. Return to it later with fresh perspective. The effect also has implications for how you end your workday. Instead of forcing completion of everything, consider stopping with a clear but unfinished next step. Tomorrow, you'll know exactly where to begin. You'll have momentum. And overnight, your mind will have worked on it. This is different from leaving everything incomplete. That creates stress. But leaving one important thing at a good stopping point creates productive tension. Tonight, you might apply this principle. If you have a problem or project on your mind, spend just 15 minutes engaging with it before bed. Think about it. Write down some initial thoughts. Explore the question. Don't try to solve it completely. Just open the loop. Then let it go. Sleep. Your unconscious will work. Tomorrow, insights may await. Trust the process. Your mind is more powerful than you realize. It works even when you're not aware of it working. The Zeigarnik effect proves it. Use that power. Start, then rest. Begin, then break. Engage, then release. Your best thinking often happens when you're not trying to think. Sleep well. Your mind has work to do. Clear small admin tasks. Finish little admin tasks. Promptly, they drain mental energy. Small administrative tasks are insidious. Each one seems trivial. Filling out a form, scheduling an appointment, paying a bill, replying to a routine email, updating a file. None takes long, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. None feels urgent. None seems important. So they sit, they accumulate, and they create a constant low-level drain on your mental energy. This drain is real, even though it's subtle. Each undone admin task occupies a tiny slice of your working memory. I need to submit that form. I should schedule that appointment. That bill is due soon. These reminders surface repeatedly throughout your day. Each time you acknowledge them and defer them. I'll do it later. This acknowledgement and deferral cycle consumes energy, even though you're not actually doing the tasks. The psychological term is cognitive load. Your brain can only hold so much actively in mind. Every commitment, every undone task, every intention adds to the load. Small admin tasks are particularly pernicious because they're numerous. One undone task is manageable. 20 undone tasks create significant cognitive load. Your mind feels cluttered, busy, overwhelmed. Not because you're doing a lot, but because you're carrying a lot. The solution is simple. Clear, small admin tasks promptly. When a task will take less than 10 minutes and doesn't require significant mental effort, do it immediately or schedule it for today. Don't let it sit on a list accumulating guilt and consuming attention. Handle it, clear it, free that mental space. This is similar to the 2-minute rule, but specifically focused on administrative work. Admin tasks are often the perfect candidates for immediate action because they're usually straightforward. They don't require creativity, complex problem solving, or peak mental energy. They just need doing. Filing a form requires following instructions. Scheduling an appointment requires a brief conversation or email. These tasks are mechanical, not creative. The benefit of clearing them promptly is dramatic. Each completed admin task frees mental space. The reminder stops surfacing. The guilt disappears. You feel lighter. Complete 5 small admin tasks, and you've removed 5 sources of cognitive drain. This creates mental clarity that improves everything else you do. Many people resist this because admin tasks feel unimportant. I have bigger priorities. I should focus on meaningful work, not paperwork. This is true. Admin tasks aren't your most important work, but leaving them undone creates a cost that affects your important work. Better to spend 30 minutes clearing 6 admin tasks and have a clear mind for 3 hours of focused creative work than to spend those 3 hours with admin tasks nagging at you, fragmenting your attention. The timing matters. Batch your admin tasks rather than scattering them throughout the day. Maybe dedicate 30 minutes in the morning or afternoon to administrative work. Process everything that's accumulated. This creates a clear period, reduces context switching, and feels efficient. You're not interrupting important work for admin. You're handling admin in its designated time. Some admin tasks require external inputs or waiting periods. You can't always complete them immediately. For these, the principle is, move them forward as far as possible, then close the loop in your mind. If you need to submit a form, but first need information from someone else, send that request now. The task is no longer on you until they respond. You've moved it to the next waiting state. It's not forgotten, but it's also not actively draining your energy. Use systems to minimize recurring admin drain. Automate bill payments so you're not repeatedly paying the same bills. Set up templates for common emails so you're not rewriting similar messages. Create checklists for recurring processes so you're not remembering steps each time. These systems reduce the number of small tasks requiring your active attention. Also, question whether the task needs doing at all. Some admin tasks are legacy obligations that no longer serve a purpose. That monthly report nobody reads. That filing system that's outdated. That routine task that was important once but isn't anymore. If the task doesn't actually need doing, eliminate it entirely. This is even better than doing it quickly. The mental clarity from clear admin is tangible. People often describe feeling lighter, more focused, more in control after clearing accumulated admin tasks. It's not that completing those tasks was deeply satisfying. They're boring tasks. It's that removing the cognitive load creates space. Your mind feels less crowded. You can think more clearly about things that matter. This principle applies especially during transitions. Monday morning, clear your administrative backlog before diving into the week's important work. Return from vacation. Spend an hour or two on accumulated admin before starting major projects. This transition time ensures you're not carrying administrative weight while trying to do meaningful work. Some people dedicate specific times for admin clearing. Friday afternoon might be admin time, handling all the small tasks that accumulated during the week so you start Monday with a clear slate. Or first thing in the morning, before deep work, spend 15 minutes clearing overnight admin. Find what works for your rhythm and stick to it. The principle also applies to digital clutter. Unread emails, files needing organizing, bookmarks to review. These digital admin tasks create mental clutter, just like physical ones. Clear them. Inbox zero isn't about perfectionism. It's about reducing cognitive load. When your digital spaces are clear, your mind feels clearer. Physical spaces matter too. Mail sitting in piles, papers needing filing, objects needing homes. This physical admin creates visual noise that translates to mental noise. 5 minutes organizing your desk isn't wasted time. It's creating an environment that supports focus. Clear physical space supports clear mental space. The hardest part is overcoming the resistance to doing small, boring tasks. They're unglamorous. Nobody will congratulate you for filing your paperwork or updating your records. There's no glory in admin work, but there's peace, there's clarity, there's mental energy freed for things that do matter. That's the reward, not the task itself, but the space it creates. Consider also the compound effect of neglect. One undone admin task is minor, but admin tasks accumulate. If you defer each small task, eventually you have dozens of them. Now you need to dedicate hours to catching up, which feels overwhelming, so you continue deferring. The backlog grows, the cognitive load increases. What started as manageable becomes a source of real stress. Breaking this cycle requires a reset. Dedicate focused time, maybe a few hours on a weekend, to clearing your entire admin backlog. Everything. Forms, bills, emails, organizing, filing, scheduling. Clear it all. Reach inbox zero, desk clear, to-do list containing only meaningful work. This reset is liberating. Then, maintain it. Handle new admin promptly so you never accumulate another backlog. Tonight, before sleep, you might make a list of all small admin tasks currently nagging at you. Don't do them now, just list them. Tomorrow, dedicate time to clearing the entire list. Experience the mental clarity that follows. Notice how much more space your mind has when it's not cluttered with administrative reminders. That space is valuable. It's where creativity lives. It's where focus lives. Protect it by handling small admin tasks promptly, so they never accumulate into large burdens. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow you can clear the clutter and reclaim your mental energy